The queen ran away again. 2. Protect the little princess. Wuxia sneered sarcastically over her older sister's belief. The baby inside the queen's stomach hasn't even come out yet. How are they so certain it's a princess? Muing's expression sank into a darker tone over that comment. If you do this, then it will bring great disaster to our leopard clan. It's not easy for us to have this peace today, and you want to ruin it all for your own sake. I'm only speaking the truth, sister. What's more, I heard the queen is only a human. Us demons hate humanity to the core. What makes you think the king can really last forever with her? Not to mention the young prince is nothing but a filthy half-breed. What makes you think he can lead our kind? Wuxia's lip then formed a scornful sneer like she's been insulted. Only the children we give birth to is worthy of becoming the true heir. Anything less is unworthy. Nothing but a stinking human woman. How dare she compete with us for the king's favor? If the queen is a demoness, then it's one thing. At least then I will still be able to suck it up. But she's a human. And the fact that the king is having the first elder choose maids for the princess goes to show how little he favors the current queen. That's right. In this presumptuous bitch's mind, Song's act of finding capable maids for his own unborn daughter was in fact an indirect mean of choosing more concubines for himself. And she herself was the perfect candidate for that position. I will tell father about everything you said today, and you. Stopping there because she didn't want to finish the last bit. Muing glares at her own younger sister to emphasize her point. However, their argument didn't get any further, because an angry holler had cut them off just then. What tell? What is there to tell? Aside from tattling to your father, what else can you do? Almost running over was a middle-aged woman of decent beauty, but that resentful and angry growl ruined it all. I'm warning you, Muing. You're not allowed to tell your father about this. Furthermore, you must do everything in your power to help your sister get the position of queen. Staring wide-eyed at this order. Mother, what do you mean by that? Isn't it obvious? With your strength, killing a simple human is easy. Once you are done with that, then you can take the blame for yourself. This way you won't drag your little sister down with you. Yu Yao coldly snorted like it's the obvious thing to say to her own eldest daughter. Due to the circumstances, Muing had been kept in the mountains since childhood and isolated from the rest of her clan. Therefore she didn't have much contact with her own mother over the years. Naturally, Yu Yao wouldn't have much feelings for this girl as a result, and favored the younger one instead. As expected, Mu Ying's body went stiff after what she heard. My own mother wants me to die for her other daughter? She wants me to die for Wuxia? Is she even my mother anymore? Mother! Hooking her arms around like it's pre-planned, Wuxia starts getting all whiny like a spoiled brat. I don't care. I want to be the king's woman. No, I want to be the queen. I want to have his child, and I want my child to be the future heir. I know my baby is far better than that half-breed runt. Oh my good daughter, you don't need to worry. Your mother, I will definitely get your sister to help you get your wish. Giving a gentle caress of her daughter's hair. This biased mother didn't even spare a glance towards the older one. Besides, my sewer here is so outstanding. How can anyone not like you? That said, Yu Yao's eyes then shifted to Mu Ying's figure, who just stood there with a haunted face. This woman had no warmth in those eyes, like she's facing some servant. Did you hear me or not? Don't think just because your father favors you that you can use him against me. If you dare say a single word about today, then I will die in front of you immediately. I will tell everyone it's you who forced your own mother to die, after clinging on to the king. The queen ran away again. 3. Muing was left speechless and stunned over her own mother's irate face. It's painful and hurtful for the girl, like someone just yanked at her heart and threw it away. This is my mother. Does she think I voluntarily locked myself up in the mountains? Does she think I wanted to leave them? How can a parent make such a request of their own child? This sort of maltreatment was honestly not what Muing expected. Just because she herself didn't get to grow up with the family, she's now an outsider. Alright, I won't tell father so you two can stop fretting, but I won't help her either. I'm afraid of dying, so asking me to die for her is out of the question. Disheartened inside, Muing didn't have the energy left to speak to these two. Yu Yao may not favor her eldest daughter, But the motherly instinct was still there. Sadly, once the woman saw the cold hard stare from Muing, she immediately retracted any sentiment of feeling guilty. Muing, I don't believe what you say about not having thoughts about the king. I'm telling you, the position as queen is your little sister's. You mustn't fight her for it. That only made the girl even more disappointed. Whatever you want, just don't blame me and say I didn't warn you beforehand. There's a good chance you two will die for this. That said, she gave one final glance at her sister and mother, like it's some sort of farewell to their familiar bonds. She's done with them and only wants to return to the mountain. Mother. Mu Shui felt aggrieved over the rejection and started to whine again. Don't worry, sweetie. I will go talk to your father and have him bring you into the palace. But remember, don't let him know about what we're planning. With his old-fashioned nature, he will surely object to the idea and remove you from the roster. Still sulky in the face, Mu Shui bites her lip. What if Muing tells father? The fact that she promised us means she won't rat us out. Don't take her too seriously. And when you do become the queen, won't she have to kneel before your feet? When that time comes you can humiliate her all you like. This time Yu Yao's voice was very cold, like the girl was no longer her daughter at all. At the mention of being the queen, Mu Shui's heart definitely felt relieved, because the desire and greed for the crown overcame all her own hears. Imagine a tiara on her own head and the groveling picture of thousands of demons before her eye. What a glorious picture that would be. I won't let you down, mother. One day I will become the noblest of all women in this world. At first her goal was only to become a concubine of Deetsong's. But clearly this girl has no bounds or qualms about anything. Yu Yao felt proud after hearing that blasted remark worthy of execution. In this mother's mind, her youngest daughter could do anything, blind confidence being the worst type of poison for an ignorant mother. Go clean yourself up now. I'll go find your father and organize the matter of bringing you into the palace. Patting her daughter's head, the woman's attitude was too polarizing to say she's right in the head. The queen ran away again. 4. Even though Muing promised her not to say anything, but Yu Yao has never been one to trust others so easily. She must go confirm it's the case in order to be reassured, and telling her youngest daughter would do nothing but make trouble. Demon City. Inside the newly constructed palace, Deetsong was searching high and low for the two people he wanted to find. Sadly, despite his efforts, he couldn't find a single trace of their being in the courtyards or rooms. Going slightly white in the face, he makes a grab for the nearest demon soldier. Where's the queen and prince? Startled and unable to process the question, the poor guard had to take a good moment to answer. The queen and prince said they wanted to go out for a walk because they felt stuffy inside. They haven't returned yet. They haven't returned yet? The man's face instantly changed into an ugly shade, hurrying to close his eyes in order to sense for his wife's presence. The Demon King didn't wait another second before his body disappeared in a gush of wind for the outside. Not long after the king's departure, First Elder also returns from his trip of recruiting the 10 maids for the princess. But when he saw the trembling appearance of the palace guards around himself, he couldn't help but wonder. Why are you all acting so nervous for? Literally squirming from discomfort, the guard in question cried and wept as he spoke. The queen and prince ran away from home again. We didn't stop her, and now the king. He's very angry. Sure enough, the elder's face went stiff like a rock. Bursting with anger as well, he stomped over and grabbed the person by the collar and yelled from the top of his lung. You useless things! Don't you know the queen is pregnant? You actually let her go out on her own? What if something happens to the prince and queen? Do you want us all to die? The impending fate of that future left all the guards within earshot of his outburst crumbling to the floor. They didn't dare to move, nor did they dare to ask for mercy, because it would only make things worse. Frustrated, First Elder didn't want to waste time on unimportant matters now. You two go arrange the living quarters for these maids. I'm going to go handle this issue first, because you useless idiots can't do a simple job of looking after the royal family. Yes, Elder. The leading palace guard complies, and hanged his head in depression. Not a moment too late after the elder's departure, The leopard ladies were brought over by another attendant charged with their guidance. But when Wuxia saw the mood appearances of these soldiers, the greedy girl couldn't resist coming over to ask, "Hey Mr. Guard, is the relationship between your king and queen very bad? Why does she constantly run away from home?" Frowning at the annoyance, "Our king and queen's relationship have always been good. You don't need to fret about it." Despite those words and the constant tugging of her older sister mooing from the side, the little greedy lass didn't budge and smirked. "Is that so? Why does the queen keep wanting to leave then? I bet it's because she got wind of the king wanting to take in a new consort. That's why she's left out of anger." "The king wants to take in a new consort?" The expression of the guard froze over the idea. No wonder. No wonder the queen was anxious to leave today. It must be because the king broke her heart, which made her leave out of spite. Wuxia, now openly growing anxious in the face, mooing desperately wanted to put a stop to this before it's too late. Lowering her voice into an urgent whisper, "Stop this. This is the demon city and not the leopard clan. No one can protect you here." Obvious Wuxia didn't agree with that idea and puckered up those lips. "Not like I said anything that's false. Why is she being so pushy?" Labor 1. A humph. The guard forces a dry cough using an expressionless face. "Whatever you want to say can come later. Right now come with me." In an instant, the courtyard was silent over the order. Wuxia undoubtedly felt unhappy over the lost opportunity and glared at her older sister. "What a nosy body. I knew I should have forced mother to keep this woman at home. That way I can avoid having her cling on to me and ruin my good thing." However, not even this greedy girl was foolish enough to openly showcase her true feelings. This wasn't the leopard clan, but the palace in the demon city. She has at least enough awareness to know what she could and couldn't do in these times. The guard obviously saw through the character of this leopard lass. After all, this wasn't the first time he's had to deal with the female sex trying to get into the king's bedchamber. In the end, after much deliberation, the demon soldier decides to consult with the elder council after bringing these maids to their designated living quarters. He doesn't want to make presumptions and make another mistake like today. Unfortunately, it seems fate doesn't want to side with the poor palace guard during this period. Right when he arrived at the courtyard where the remaining elders were staying, he was firmly driven away by the attendants, saying the elders were currently in a crucial step of making a breakthrough and won't allow an audience. In a tea house not far from the demon city, a teenager was currently sitting next to a window staring out into the sky when he overheard the nearby conversations. "Oh right, did you hear about the recent news regarding the demon city?" Demon city? Crumpling up his nose over those two words, the teen in question started to pay attention. "Of course I've heard about that demon city. It's been conquered by the demons, did it not? I really have to wonder what the celestial palace is thinking. It's been so long already. Why aren't they sending people over to retake the place? If this continues, then the entire realm will fall into those demons at this rate." "I'm not talking about that city being conquered, you silly. I'm talking about the demon king taking in new consorts. Because of that reasoning, the demon queen and her son the prince have now ran away from home and hasn't returned yet. That demon queen deserves it, I say. She's a human like us but decides to become a demon's wife." Bang! The teacup in the boy's hand was crushed in that instant. Despite the boiling water being hot enough to give a burn, the teen didn't pay it any heed and came before the loudmouth gossiper's face in the next. "You, what do you want?" the person asks after noticing the intensely cold air coming down his neck. "You just said the demon king wants to take in a new consort, is that true?" I'm not entirely sure. The news came from the demon city, so I'm only saying what I heard. It's a huge sensation apparently, and has all the female demons there riles up. Even some human women are trying to get in on the election process." Labor 2, swoosh. Right as the loudmouth gossiper finished his words, the teen in question had already turned away following a rapid gush of wind. Demon City. Standing under the mounting image of the towering structures that made up the walls surrounding this city, the teen was indifferent as he held out his long sword. But before he could make it no more than a few steps towards the city gates, A regiment of demon soldiers had rushed over to surround him from within. "Get Deetsong out here to see me," he snaps, unfazed by the sizable force before his eye. "Who are you? How dare you call our king by name?" asked the leading guard, sneering. "I only want to ask him in person if he really intends to take in a new consort. Tell him to get out here." The guards were all taken aback by the demand. It's true there's a rumor hovering above the city about the king taking in new consorts, and that the new maid's first elder brought back from the leopard clan were the likely candidates. But that's never confirmed, so it didn't make sense that someone would have issue with the matter. Of course, those who knows the royal family wouldn't believe such nonsense to begin with, but that doesn't mean everyone would think that way. For these palace guards over here, they're originally from the secret domain of the demon realm. They've spent most of their time training within there, so whatever story or information they had were only from hearsay, hence the hesitation in their behavior. I thought it was all rumors at first, but clearly that's not the case if even his subordinates are acting the way you are all. Perhaps it's the rage brewing from within at the notion. The teen's hand was starting to shake as he held that sword. "I will get an answer from him no matter what today. I want to know if the promise he made to me back then still holds true. He promised to love my sister for the rest of his life. Now he wants to take in a new consort? Fine. If he takes one, then I'll kill one. If he takes two, then I'll kill two. I like to see him take a new consort then." The more he spoke, the more intimidating and threatening the young lad became. Against this oppressive picture, the demon soldiers all felt an instinctive fear and cowered back. "You!" The leading guard popped his eyes out as he nervously cried out the idea in his mind. "You are the king's brother-in-law?" Instead of getting happy, the teen only grew more outraged at the title. "Brother-in-law? That's all in the past. My sister is Bai Yen, and I won't recognize someone that likes to flirt around with other females after being married. Now go get him out here to see me. Or is he too afraid to come out in person?" Sweating buckets at the confirmation, the leading guard wanted to curse his own luck. This guy really is the queen's younger brother, and he's here to get justice for the queen. "I can't offend this guy. Otherwise the king might kill us for good if he learns of this. So it's Sir Xiao. Apologies for not recognizing you beforehand. Unfortunately, I can't oblige your request because the king has left in search of the queen again." The guard rubs his hands together like a guilty child that's been caught doing something wrong. Labor 3. Bai Zhao's expression grew even colder over that information. "That asshole still have the guts to find my sister? Ridiculous. When he comes back, you tell him, I am willing to take care of my sister for life. If he really wants to take in a new consort, then he will stop pestering my sister." That said, he gives one final glance to the open gate, where a flash of cold gleam glowed from those irises. Just when the leading demon solitaire felt relieved at the teen turning away again, something completely out of his expectation occurred. It's the sound of something collapsing behind his back. Rigid like a robot, he turns around and saw what it was. The gate has been sliced apart and down on the ground. Gulping. Her Highness's brother isn't easy to handle either. He destroyed the gate. That's tantamount to stepping on the king's face. It looks like His Majesty won't have an easy time persuading the queen to return this time. Sky Mountain. High into the clouds, dangers are lurking everywhere in this difficult terrain. Nevertheless, Bai Yin continues to push through the blocking branches with her sword in one hand, and her son behind herself. SSSSS. Suddenly, the poor woman felt a stinging pain along the belly, and caused her to convulse a gasp. She's sweating now, but knew well enough stopping was out of the question at this point. "Mother, what's wrong?" Bai Xiachen nervously grabbed onto Bai Yan's hand after noticing the behavior, his little face showing concern and worry. Shaking her head. "It's all right, probably it's your little sister wanting to come out." "I'm sorry, Mother, it's all my fault. If not for me, you wouldn't have to endure so much with your tummy this big." Aching with pain in the heart, the kid had started to cry along his lovely but guilty face. "I'm fine, this is your sister's will. Come, let's continue. Only by getting up to the peak of this sky mountain can we find a celestial fox." Drawing a smile to reassure her boy, Bai Yin presses on without regret. For her son, she's willingly to do anything and endure anything. Like this sky mountain, it's infamous for being dangerous and full of traps. Thankfully, she did her research beforehand and managed to avoid any risks so far. It's just that there's some sort of invisible pressuring force surrounding this mountain that hindered any human trying to climb it. Due to this reasoning, Bai Yan's body would be stressed beyond compare with every inch she moved, making it all the more difficult to walk. Even so, she's not going to stop. In fact, she couldn't stop. Bang! But in the end, the pressure was just too much for her pregnant self. Bending down in the knees, she's sweating buckets and showed visible pain on the face. Labor 4. Mother. Throwing himself over to Bai Yan's side, he cries out in fright. Let's go back, okay? I don't want the celestial fox's blood anymore. Let's go home. We've already come this far. There's no turning back anymore, Xiachen. There's only 100 meters away. We must reach the top. Closing her eyes, Bai Yan's mind brought up the image of that ghoul-like version of her son merging together with the light one. Only with that picture did her heart firm up again. Even if I have to crawl, I must crawl up here. No one can stop me from saving my son. Grinding a streak with her knee along the snow, she slowly climbs up to her feet by clinging onto the cliff side. I must get up there. The celestial foxes will only show themselves if I'm at the peak. I must get up there. At the thought, she then stares down at her belly and rubbed the life that's within herself. Child, you must protect yourself for your brother. I can only persist. I also believe you will be born safely into this world and stay with me for life. Bai Xiachen saw how determined his mother was and decides to stop crying despite the tears still coming out. He's learned enough through the years. He's not supposed to show weakness when Bai Yan's trying so hard already. Together, one small and one big figure continued to climb this difficult mountain pass. But the mountain wouldn't just ease up on its relentless nature, just because the two were showing determination. The more they climbed, the colder it became until Bai Yan felt like her body's being taken over by frostbites. Nevertheless, the pair eventually did reach the peak of this snowy mountain. Though it took far more time than necessary, from daytime to nightfall they've made it. Perhaps it's the fact that she's reached the goal, or the fact that the strange pressuring aura around this mountain has dissipated. But Bai Yan collapsed the second she felt it was far enough. This would have been fatal if it was under normal circumstances, however. There's one good thing out of all this. Her power's back. Immediately, the woman summoned up her internal energy to course through her veins and brought a wave of warmth to the body. Mother! Bai Xiachen pounced at the collapsed woman after seeing her terrible condition. He wanted to dearly to check her health, but the inner restraint brought the boy back to his senses and stopped him from doing anything rash. You're so silly, Xiachen. Breaking out a smile, Bai Yan gently pokes at the little steambun's temple. Because the boy was a half-breed, part human and part demon, he's able to interchange between both races with his aura. But just then when he cried out after she collapsed, the boy had stopped using his demon aura and reverted back to the human version, making him susceptible to the same pressure that Bai Yan's been fending off until now. Mother! Face planting his plump face against her belly. I'm not afraid of suffering. I only want to be with you. I'm too small to help carry some of the weight from you, so I can only do this. I don't want you to suffer alone, Mother. Labor 5. For the little steambun, being able to stay with Bai Yan was all that he wanted in this world. Even if that meant plenty of suffering and dangers involved, he won't regret it. Hiss! The poor woman wanted to say something more then. However, it's right at that moment a stinging pain came rolling from her belly again and caused her to go white from the spasm. What's wrong, Mother? Bai Xiachen asks with urgent eyes. Is my little sister coming out? Tightly biting her lips, Bai Yan clearly couldn't speak anymore, due to the sensation coursing through her veins. It's an experience normal people could never imagine. For example, compared to the injuries she's used to taking in combat, this was several times more intense. Mother! Unable to hold back the tears anymore, the little steambun shows a pleading face due to that painful expression. He's accompanied Bai Yan for so many years and has never seen his mother behave this strongly and helpless. Xiachen, help me prepare the scissor in hot water. Yuho. Quickly pulling out the prepared scissor from his storage bag. The boy also grabs the water kettle and an iron pot from within for use. These are all prepared for this occasion prior to their departure, so it didn't take long for Bai Xiachen to set everything up. Bai Yan, on the other hand, was too preoccupied with her current condition of going into labor to do anything else. Truthfully, she doesn't understand why either, but this time it's much more painful than when she carried her son the first time around. Seconds passed. Minutes passed. The clock continued to tick along, but the baby remained firmly lodged in there, refusing to come out, and causing the poor woman to gasp constantly in pain. Mother! Growing increasingly more distressed over that painful face, the boy starts to plead. I don't want a sister anymore. I don't want a sister anymore. Can you not give birth anymore? I don't want you to keep getting hurt. Unable to speak, Bai Yin could only make a bittersweet smile at her boy. The baby's already coming out soon. How can I not have it? Besides, I've come this far and climbed the mountain. What does some pain matter at this point? Getting angry now, Bai Xiachen stares angrily at the big belly. You are not a good sister. You causing mother so much pain. If you don't come out now, then I won't like you anymore. Who knows if the boy's words really worked, or it's just the timing. But the next thing Bai Yin felt was a loosening sensation around her belly, and a ball of flesh rolling down her bottom half, followed closely by the screaming cry of a baby's voice. Panting with air still, Bai Yin felt relieved. Hurry, Xiachen. Go pick the baby up or else the cold will hurt her. I don't want to. Bai Xiachen refused, and instead ran up to Bai Yan's side to grasp her hand. Why? Don't you want your sister? Hurry and go pick her up. She hurt you, so I don't like her anymore. Puckering his lips, the boy explains with an unhappy face. Labor 6. In the eyes of the boy, anyone who hurts his mother was one to dislike, hence his behavior right this instant. Xiachen, I suffered a lot in order to give birth to her. Are you going to let all that go in vain? Bai Yin says that with a frail smile. Though unwilling, the little steam bun does find the argument logical. As such, he could only begrudgingly come before the baby, where found the pinkish lump of squirming flesh. Instantly, the hard look on his face began to soften up. Crying out after finding the bodily structure similar to his own, the boy swings around and exclaimed, Mother, this is not a little sister, this is a little brother. Also showing surprise along the face, Bai Yin just stared for a second, realizing how silly she's been. 4 days on end, Bai Xiachen's insistence about the baby being a girl has apparently rubbed off on her, and that made her assume that's the case. How silly! How could I have taken a child's dream as real? Puckering his lip to the side, Bai Xiachen's discontent towards the baby only grew. If it was a sister, then I can ignore what happened, but he's a little brother. When he grows up, I'm going to teach him a good lesson. Hiss! Right as Bai Yin could gather a breather, another contraction hits her hard, causing that face to go white. Xiachen, there's another one. Instantly, the boy's complexion went pale again over the news. Why is there another one? It was already hard enough for one. I don't want mother to go through another hurt. Bai Yin knew the boy's worry, so she tried to reassure him with a smile, however. Perhaps this one in the stomach was better and well behaved. But there wasn't any struggle for the woman after one push. Immediately, a second ball of flesh rolled down from her bottom self. And like before, Bai Xiachen quickly stepped in to pick up the crying baby. It's just that unlike the first baby, this one clearly had a different structural makeup. This fact brought a huge smile to the boy's face. Mother, it's a sister, this is a girl. Full of excitement in the voice, he's so proud right now. I knew it, my little sister is the good and obedient one. She didn't make mother suffer at all. This little brother, on the other hand, is the bad one. He's mischievous just from first glance. I'm going to give him a good beating later. Against the picture of her 3 children, Bai Yin just couldn't help but chuckle. Be good, little sister. I will take good care of you and fend off the cold. Shrouding his little hands in a golden glow, the boy's power instantly dispelled the frost around the 2 babies. All right, mother, can I name my brother and sister? He asks with sparking eyes. Faintly nodding. Okay. Then I'll name my little sister Ling Yan, meaning hope and beauty. She will be Di Ling Yan. If that's what makes you happy, Bai Yin softly giggles. And what about your little brother? Oh, puckering his lips in discontent. Little brother is so naughty, so I'll just call him Pippi. Gawking her face, Bai Yin has had to hand it to her son. Based on this attitude alone, she could tell he doesn't like this baby brother. That name is not very nice, pick another. She says with brows pricked. Truth was Bai Xiachen only wanted to help name his sister. Never did he intend on for a boy instead. If not for worrying about tiring out Bai Yin some more, he wouldn't even bother at this point. Puckering his lips again. Then let's call him Tian Tian. Tian Tian? Bai Yan's face went black. Your little sister will be called Di Lian Yan, and your little brother will be called Di Jin Tian. How about that? Celestial Fox 1. Okay, I will listen to you, mother. The boy has no opinion regarding the matter. After all, he only cares about his little sister's name. Giving a gentle tickle at the baby girl. Ling Yan, you have to remember your name is from your older brother here. As if to answer those words, the girl actually drew a smile that melted the kid's heart like a hot spring. Mother, she is smiling at me, did you see that? Smiling right up to the eye. Bai Xiachen couldn't hold back his delight. She must also like me a lot. Xiachen, bring me the scissor first. Bai Yin had long climbed up from the dirty ground and leaned in against a nearby tree using a sitting position. Okay. First burning the metal utensil against the fire. He then quickly came before his mother with a helpless face. What should I do now, mother? Give. But before she could say give her the scissor, a noticeable energy signature had caught her attention and sent her into alarm. Xiachen, protect your little brother and sister. Without delay, Bai Yin takes over and cuts the umbilical cord without a second thought, her eyes scanning intently at the front. Okay. With the main cord holding the baby's back cut, the little steam bun was free to move around freely for the impending new arrival. They are both aware of what's coming and knew what must be done. Swoosh. It didn't take long for the sound to reach their location. And when it did, Bai Yan's eyes immediately locked onto the snowy white fox that gave off an incredible visual impact. Yet instead of stopping over the unfamiliar people in her territory, the fox continued to pounce at them at incredible speed. In an instant, the creature had brandished its claws and swiped down at Bai Yan's shoulder. Mother! White in the face, Bai Xiachen snaps in anger over the wound. Stop. This angry holler carried incredible weight apparently. Rather than continuing with its attack, the celestial fox stopped and stared out at the child in a daze. Using this momentary opening, Bai Yin promptly backed off to gain a bit of distance. The pain stung from her shoulder, and she's very perplexed by the creature's behavior. Does Xiachen's lineage able to suppress the celestial fox? That must be it. He's also a fox, the royal family at that. This celestial fox may have lived and evolved inside the celestial realm, but he's still an animal. Careful. From out of the blue, Bai Yin could hear the whistling sound of an arrow from the sky. It's shrouded in purple light, soaring through the air like it wants to rip reality apart. Thankfully the target wasn't the woman herself. Otherwise she'd be in some serious danger there. Instead, it's shooting straight down for the hostile animal. PFFF. The celestial fox obviously sensed the danger behind itself, and also tried to dodge. Unfortunately the creature, it was already too late. The arrow had pierced through its chest and stained the ground with a whole puddle of red. Celestial Fox 2. Despite the audible thud as the celestial fox crashed into the ground, the creature never once took its eyes off Bai Xiachen's figure. It's as if it still didn't understand what's happening. Meanwhile, further behind where Bai Yin stood, a beautiful young-looking maiden had come out with a bow in hand. Proud and cocky in the face. Celestial Fox, I've waited a long time for you to come out. Let's see how you will escape from us. It took a moment for Bai Yin to come back to her senses from all this, but when she did, her eyes dilated inwards and caused her to jerk into action. Pulling a bottle out from storage, she swiftly gathered the needed blood and handed it to her boy. Xiachen, leave here with your siblings. Find a safe place, and then drink this blood. Unfortunately, the kid clearly didn't agree, and firmly shook his little head. Leave now. She frowns. Don't forget. You said you have to protect your sister. I'll handle the matter here, so leave. Despite the unwillingness to depart, Bai Xiachen nevertheless did as told after casting a look down to the two babies in his arms. He ran for the nearby bushes to first get cover. This celestial fox was first discovered by me, so it's mine, said the young beautiful maiden who had a cocky appearance. So you better scram. Pursing her own lip, Bai Yan ignored the clamor and reached for a medicinal pill instead to hand over to the fox. Eat this. Startled by what it's seeing, the celestial fox didn't understand why a human would want to save itself. You hurt me, but you also saved my son, so we're even now. This pill is the reward for what you gave. Not giving a proper reply, the celestial fox swallowed the offering without struggle. It understood there's nothing else to lose at this point, and that was the right choice because the bleeding and pain immediately stopped. Who allowed you to touch my thing? The pompous girl exclaims, eyes flaring with anger. Expressionless on her own face still, Bai Yan slowly gets back up from leaning down to confront the livid girl. Who says this fox is yours? She was drawn in because of me and has nothing to do with you. Snorting at the rebuttal, the girl smirks derisively. I am the big miss of the Celestial clan, and our relationship with the Celestial Palace is deep and intertwined. If you offend me, then only bad things will come your way. This celestial fox is something I've had my eye on for a long while, so naturally it's mine. Those who try to rob me of my things will never end well. Unfazed by the useless threat, Bai Yan tightly grasps onto her god slayer, which glinted dangerously under her wield. I will not let you have it. In that case, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Gritting with frustration, the arrogant lass snaps back to her party. You bunch go kill this woman for me. I'm taking this celestial fox now. Yes, miss. Immediately, the group surrounded the target from all sides, their weapons brandishing with killing intent. Even so, despite having no room for escape at this point, Bai Yan didn't fret and looked on with uncaring indifference. Truth was, she already figured out their strength. 1 lower-level high divine, 8 average middle divine, and a dozen entry-level middle divines. Celestial Fox 3. It's exactly then the group attacked, leaving only the high divine assailant in the back to observe. Bai Yan saw this and reacted, of course. The first to come at her was a middle divine, which she blocked with her sword, but the force alone still managed to push her back several feet. Even worse was the internal injury. She's almost ready to throw up blood, due to just giving birth. The celestial fox struggled to get up using this chance, but its body was too severely injured and lacked the strength. After several attempts, it fell back down and couldn't move. At the same time, Shen Tianyu girl once again drew her bow using a thin sword from her back basket. This was the same weapon she used to injure the fox the first time around, and it's sparking with purplish zaps of lightning even before it's shot. Her aim, the head of the celestial fox. Despite already fending off multiple individuals after being ganged up upon, Bai Yan still noticed this, and had the time to stop her. With a swinging wave of her god slayer, she sets off a storm of dust and cloud at the cheeky lass and blinded her sight. Livid at the interruption, Shen Tianyu yells out again. What are you all waiting for? Hurry and finish this blasted woman. I want to give her a real beating for attacking me. In order to succeed in this hunt, she deliberately took out the thunder bow from her father's treasury, just to catch the animal, because it's able to suppress the incredible speed of fast creatures. And since the celestial fox only had its speed going for it, the bow was the perfect weapon. As the battle continued to drag on, Bai Yan's condition worsened, and began to show visible signs of deterioration. She's losing strength incredibly fast following each strike, and sweat could be seen along her forehead at this point. It's so bad that even the Dan pills in her possession aren't able to recoup the energy loss. Just like that, an unexpected palm strike eventually hits her from the back, and causes her to fly forward until she hits a nearby tree. She's covered in blood as a result, mainly due to her spewing it from the mouth and sprinkling along the dress. Things are not looking good at this rate. I really don't know if you are stupid or not, going this far for a simple animal. That celestial fox can at most only be turned into a vest. Why are you making our celestial clan into your enemy? Is it worth it? Shun Tianyu says this with a cold grin and contemptuous eyes. That's right. The sole reason this arrogant lass was after the fox was because of that snowy white fur. She wants to turn it into a vest for herself to wear, a fashion statement. Swaying as she forces herself to get back up, Bai Yan decisively wipes the trickle of blood from her mouth. I've already said it. You can't take it away. I've already said it, you can't take it away. Those words were like a shocking revelation for the celestial fox. Looking up with tears of gratitude pouring forward, the fox kept sobbing and making cries of sadness. Swish! The man who was the high divine level finally took action. Then, after watching idly from the sidelines for so long, drawing that burning sword of his from the scabbard, the person went straight for Bai Yan's sloppy figure. Celestial Fox 4. But right before the killing blow could be made against Bai Yan, who was already at her last leg in that critical moment, a snowy white figure suddenly dashes in and deflects the sword. Even so, the attack of a high divine wasn't to be trifled with. Instantly, the poor fox got knocked backwards and crashed into the nearest cluster of bushes. Bai Yan got stiff as a rock once she realizes what just transpired. There's an indescribable sensation brewing within her heart, and she didn't know what it was. Truth be told, the main reason she helped save the celestial fox in the beginning wasn't really out of concern for the poor creature. It's for the sake of her own son. The blood she collected was at most a single vial's worth. What if he needed more in order to recover? However, she honestly didn't think that the celestial fox would take such a ferocious blow for herself in the final moment. Its body is so frail and thin, how can it bear the blow? Staggering over to the near lifeless fox, she reaches down with her trembling hands and held the poor thing up to her face. As much as she wanted to hold back the emotions, the tears just won't stop and trickled down the lady's cheek to showcase her sorrow for the situation. Why? Even though the celestial fox didn't have any malice or ill intent from when they first met, the fact remains the little thing attacked her. So what's going on here? All she did was protect the fox one time, and it's going this far, and would even go as far as to throw her life away? Who said demonic beasts are heartless and cruel? They are more affectionate than humankind. Perhaps the celestial fox was able to sense the aching emotions in the lady, but the poor thing actually began to lick Bai Yan's hand, as if to comfort her. Not wanting to know what would happen if she's slow now, the woman swiftly pulls out another bottle of healing tonic, a much higher grade of medicine, to pour onto the fox's wound. Then, as if worried that's not enough, she brings out another pill to feed it. Naturally, the little thing didn't reject the offering and ate it without a thought. Just that instead of wariness, the fox's tail was wagging left and right like an animal that's being petted. Bang! Countless attacks rained down from the rear yet again. In her urgency, Bai Yan's only recourse was to use her own body as a shield for the celestial fox against those aggressive strikes. Due to this, she got blown away yet again. And this time the blood from her mouth was even worse than the last as it splattered along the snow-covered ground. Mother! In the moment where she landed, a childish cry of fear came from the back, thus causing the poor woman to go rigidly stiff. Looking up, she could see it was her own son running over. Xiaochen, did I not tell you to leave with your siblings? Bai Yan cries out with her face going pale. Already coming before his mother, the little steam bun was firm and strong right now. Don't worry, mother. I've already hidden my brother and sister somewhere. They won't be in danger. You, gasping at her son's reddish eye still being there. Didn't you take the vial of blood I gave you? It must be fresh for it to be effective, otherwise it will lose its use. The boy didn't give a direct answer, only twisting his head to one side to show that brilliant smile that he always does. Mother, if one day I can't be with you anymore, will you miss me? A shudder ran through the poor mother's heart, pulling her mood to the bottom. Don't talk nonsense, Xiaochen. You will never leave me. Deetsong's arrival 1. By this point the enemies are done listening to their conversation and began to attack. Due to this, Bai Yan had no choice but to let the fox in her hand down so she could fight. She's ready to make the final stand with her godslayer at this stage of the battle. Xiachen, you wait here for me. Giving one last hug to her boy, she firmly holds onto her blade for the impending showdown. The closest enemy to the woman surely knew what she intended to do next. But even then, it wasn't enough to protect themselves from the incredible burst of force coming out of the sword once Bai Yan activated its power with her own. It blew the first line of attackers right off their feet. Knowing this was her chance, Bai Yan quickly uses this opening to swallow one of her replenishment pills to regain some strength. Unfortunately, perhaps it's because of how often she ate this pill already during the fighting, but the speed in which she healed had clearly reduced significantly compared to earlier. In fact, the only reason she's even able to stand upright was thanks to the sword in her hand. Otherwise she would have collapsed back to the ground. That's how exhausted she truly was inside. You all move aside. The High Divine Elder finally lost his patience and snapped out to his subordinates. Immediately, the circling line splits apart and created an opening for the person to come forward. Girl, I admit your perseverance is worthy of admiration. However, sarcastically sneering, you are but a small grain among the many, while our miss here is the shining moon in the night sky. You can never compete with her. Only doom and misery await people like you. Boom. In an instant, the wind surges all around the area, created by the massive strength coming out of the gray-robed elder when he raised his hand to strike. This old man clearly didn't use his all when attacking Bai Yan the first time around, but now he's no longer fooling around and mustered everything into his strike. If it lands, a sure kill would be the only ending. But not all hope was lost. Right as Bai Yan's finding it difficult just to breath under that oppressive might, Bai Xiachen suddenly threw himself in front of that oncoming attack. This should have been the worst outcome possible, having a kid die in front of his own mother. Yet this doesn't seem to be the case. The kid's entire body was shrouded in a freaky flame of red that oozed a sense of danger and carnage. It's as if his soul has been consumed by the 9 levels of hell and reborn as a devil. Mother, if one day I can no longer stay by your side, will you miss me? Those words once again rang across her mind. She wanted to cry out for him to stop, but the voice in her throat just wouldn't come out, like someone had ripped it out of her body. So the only thing this poor woman knew how to do was to try to reach out with her hands. Yet, right before Bai Yan's fingers could make contact, that once adorable little steam bun had turned around again with his head to meet hers. Unlike before though, there's no longer that kind and warm gaze she's come to expect, only cold hard indifference in those red irises that seemingly felt devoid of humanity. Cusping her mouth with both hands, she now understood what has happened. Song's arrival too. She's never seen her son in such a state before, at the very least, not to this extent. For example, even though Bai Xiachen did come close when those shadow guards tried to kill them both on the cusp of the demon realm's border, the kid still had a sense of humanity left in him. But there's none of that anymore. Yue, able to sense the strong level of sadness in Bai Yan's behavior, the celestial fox sobs for her, and then made a timid look towards the boy. The little fella's body was shaking against that terrifying burning aura. Xiachen, reaching out with her hand, Bai Yan wanted to touch that face to reassure herself that the worst-case scenario hasn't happened yet. However, the boy himself wouldn't let her, and turned back to face the enemies with his bloodthirsty eye. Why is this happening? Didn't Song say the wisp of grudge must rely on Xiachen to survive? Why does it look like my son is gone? Elder Shen, this is but a child. Hurry up and kill him so we can move on. Shen Tianyu forms a frown on the face, and started to grow increasingly more impatient at the repeated delay. Yet the old man didn't move as told. He's staring intently at the freakish boy because his heart was throbbing with unease right now, something that shouldn't be possible. The rest of the Goonies, on the other hand, couldn't care less. In their mind, such a child wouldn't pose a threat at all, and they themselves only need to heed Shen Tianyu's command. Of the bunch, the one at the forefront moved the fastest, and he's also the one who swung his weapon at the boy first. But speed wasn't a factor in this exchange though. Without moving an inch, Bai Xiachen just stared at the assailant and froze him in the air like a petrified statue. It's then under this state the horrified individual felt it, the monumental force of a mountain's worth coming in from all sides against his limbs. For those watching in the back, too afraid to intervene, they only saw their poor comrade being flattened little by little. Before they knew, what used to be a human being has now become a pile of flesh, a meat pie in the shape of a cube. No words could begin to explain the intense horror circulating across this mountain peak right now. Simply speechless, that's all there was to it. Run! The first to come back to their senses was the High Divine Elder Shun. He turned tail and fled at the highest speed his body would allow. But there's no way the little red-eyed devil here would allow this group to leave, would he? In a flash of blurring movement, the boy was already in front of the elder and firmly grasping onto that shoulder. With a horrific sound of flesh and bone being torn, he rips that arm right off and causes blood to splatter everywhere, staining him and the snow-white ground. The old fella screamed in pain, but he could not care so much anymore. In a swift and decisive act, he grabbed Shin Tianyu with his remaining good arm and fled for the bottom of the mountain. Meanwhile, the others weren't so lucky in this case. Their speed was nowhere as fast and swiftly fell one by one under the hands of the little steam bun. Once he was done with that, Bai Xiachen returns again to face Bai Yin, his eyes aglow of eerie red. Di Tsong's arrival 3. In light of those murderous eyes, Bai Yin didn't feel fear at all. She's the mother of this boy, so the only thing she wants to do right now was to smile at him and give him a hug. I know you want me to hold you. I'm here now, so come to my arms. But you and your brother are both my children, and I know you are a good child at heart, so can you tell me where he went? Di Tsong mentioned it to her before. This Xiachen was the previous incarnation of her own unborn child, making this grudge effectively her own baby. Despite the plea and effort to rouse a conversation, this version of the little steam bun didn't reply, only slowly walking over with that expressionless face and dangerous-looking set of eyes that frightened even the strongest of hearts. Even so, despite all these warning flags of danger, Bai Yin didn't flinch or cower. She only wanted to reach out to give him a hug, which she did try to do once they were only a few feet apart. However, it's right at this crucial moment that a beam of purplish spark came shooting down from the sky. Next thing the woman knew was that she has found herself in the arms of her own husband. Oyuchhhh. The celestial fox instantly had its fur raised as soon as it saw Di Tsong's peerless face. The behavior of the little creature was similar to someone stepping on its tail, because it completely ignored its own injury, then and ran for the peak. At this stage, Bai Yin didn't have the attention or energy left to worry about the fox's departure. Stiffly asking the man holding herself, Di Tsong, what are you doing here? If I didn't come, then how are you supposed to take care of yourself? He's not our son anymore. Once he's possessed by that grudge, he will no longer recognize any of us. Bai Yin knew that, of course. She's not foolish or blind to the fact that her boy's condition are spiraling out of control. But it's still her son. I can handle this. Raising her hand, she pushes Di Tsong aside so that she could look at her boy again. Smiling in the face, child, don't be afraid and come to me, I will protect you. Bai Xiachen still didn't utter a single word, only staring straight at Di Tsong's figure. Then, as if able to sense the hostility towards itself, the little figure started to release its killing intent, before he suddenly pounced at his old man's throat. Kill! Kill everyone! Di Tsong's expression darkened at this picture. Nevertheless, the only reaction he did was to sidestep and narrowly avoided the punch. Di Tsong, seeing how the two males of his life are about to go at each other's throat, Bai Yin also lost it. Without thinking, she threw herself in between them both. Bang! That punch heavily hits into her stomach, causing blood to spew out of her mouth for the third time today. Yenner! Exclaiming with a face so white it's frightening, Di Tsong quickly rushes up to catch the collapsing woman. Why did you block it? This little thing is not my opponent. Coughing as she tried to speak, Bai Yin somehow manages to struggle back despite her terrible state. I'm fine, you don't have to worry. Besides, she doesn't want them to fight. Meanwhile, on the other side, Bai Xiachen's bloodthirsty eyes had stopped locking onto the Demon King. Instead, it's fixated on his own little fist. It's clear that something was stirring inside his heart, because it looks like incredible pain was going through that face right now. Song's arrival 4. Why? Why is this happening? I killed so many people already and didn't feel a thing. So why is my heart throbbing so badly right now from just punching her? It's like I forgot something important. You mustn't hurt mother. It's then a voice echoed within his mind, causing the boy to squat down and hold his head in agony. I am willing to give you forever control of this body provided that you protect mother. If you dare to hurt her, then I will rather destroy my own soul to take you with me. The echoing voice may be childish, but it's filled with anger and rage. Shut up, you shut up. The more he said that, the more in pain the kid seems to be in. She is our mother, and the most important person in my life. You are right. I am too weak to protect my mother. It's the reason I gave you control of my body. It's to protect our mother. So how can you hurt her? Ahaha. He suddenly breaks out into a scream like he's tearing his heart out. Then, without any indication, he shoots up from the ground and glared at everything in his vicinity. I'm going to kill everyone. In his heart, there has always been a voice. It told him he must kill everything in this world. Only then can he feel safe inside. Therefore, he must not let anyone interfere with his mind. I said it already, you're not allowed to hurt mother. Bang! The little boy quickly rushed at his parents with his body bursting into flame. Despite this fact, he ignored it and continued to move forward with increased vigor. Xiaochen, Bai Yin nearly lost her soul watching the self-destructing image of her own son. Pushing her husband aside without a second thought, she rushed forward as well and forcefully pulled the kid into her arms. If it was a normal flame, then this act would have been a huge mistake for the woman. She would be severely burned. However, it's as if the fire had a mind of its own, but the hot temperature didn't harm her one bit. Nevertheless, it still left her heart thumping with anxiety. Xiaochen, I know you're there. You've always been there. You killed those people for me. That's why you gave him control of your body and sealed yourself, right? Shaking in her hand, Bai Yan's tears wouldn't stop trickling out. The little boy's body froze over that plea. Why is this embrace so warm? Why is it so nostalgic? Xiaochen, you have already sacrificed your freedom for me, so why are you doing this to yourself? Do you want me to grieve the rest of my life after you die? It's obvious to Bai Yin this burning flame was the result of her own son trying to stop this grudge from hurting her. That's why he's burning his own soul, as the expense to put an end to this tragedy. After all, a grudge wouldn't be a grudge if the soul itself was destroyed. Listen to me, Xiaochen. The reason I searched for the celestial fox's blood is because I didn't want him to disappear. But I also don't want your destruction to be the price. You are my child, the baby I bore after 10 months. If you are gone, then I can't live either. Song's arrival 5. Do not know if her words truly did have an effect or not, but the killing intent hovering around the boy's body did start showing signs of dissipating following her plea this time around. Eventually, even the burning flame had disappeared and returned to the dormant silence from within. In spite of this sudden turn of event, Bai Yin didn't let go of her hands. Instead, she hugged the little boy even tighter until tears began to drip down to those shoulders. Yenner, Song's gaze never once left his son's figure during all this. Though he could tell the most critical moment has passed with the kid, but he still wouldn't leave it up to chance or his guard down. Let go first. I will eliminate this wisp of grudge from his body. Xiaochen's soul is sealed within his body right now, so there won't be any effect on him. At most he will sleep for a period. Afterwards I will find a way to lift the seal and free him again. Bai Yan's body had frozen over regarding that suggestion, because her mind immediately shot back to the time where she met that ghoul-like version of her son. That grievance, that sadness, it could never be forgotten. That's how memorable that image was in her memory. Half a ring later, she turns back to face her husband. Song, I still want to try. He doesn't remember you, and has no humanity inside of him. You have to know this point. He frowns and explains again. Bai Yin, on the other hand, was done with the conversation. Returning to the boy, She doesn't stop smiling in a reassuring and warm manner. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you back then. You must have wanted to come to this world. And you must have wanted me to hold you, right? The little boy's body shuddered a bit over the notion. Regardless, he still allowed those hands to reach over without struggle. That warmth, it's breathtakingly comfortable for some reason, and he didn't want to reject this feeling like a lost little lamb. Don't worry, those who harmed us and made us separate in the past life, I won't let any of them go. Firm in her eyes as she makes that vow, the woman then prints a kiss on the child's forehead to seal the promise. I will also find a way to protect both you and Xiachen. I won't let either of you disappear. That finally did it. The bloodthirstiness which plagued the boy for oh so long has finally dispersed, replaced entirely by tears and a sobbing cry of a childish voice. Though it's dry and hoarse like the dead, it's still that of a child's. Mother. Crossing the barrier of time and space, this poor baby finally has his chance to call out the one word he never could. Quivering across her body over this cry of a baby to their mother, Bai Yin hugged him even tighter like the act would never be enough. Di Song in the meantime could only stand on the side and silently watch the pair huddle together. He had no room to join us because right now it's their moment and not his. Is this what they call mother and son bond? But why can he only remember his mother and not father? Isn't this a little too biased? Mother, I miss you. As the boy says that, the dam holding back those tears has now collapsed and causes the fluid to stain the woman's dress. I'm sorry. I never should have forgotten. No, the one to be sorry is me. I didn't protect you properly last life, but I promise you I will protect Xiachen for sure, so don't worry. Di Song's arrival 6. A big smile drew itself onto the little boy's face over that promise, which roused a startled look from Bai Yin. In this mother's view, this ghoul-like version of her son had always been sad and grieving. Never did she ever seen him smile in any way or form. To think he too could make such a warm and brilliant smile was beyond her expectations. Mother, being able to hold you like this, I'm finally satisfied. Of the many reasons his grudge would never disperse even after reincarnation, one was because he died before being born at the hands of those people. The other was that he couldn't give Bai Yin a real huge in light of coming so close to entering this world. He only wants to embrace his mother, just once. Even once would have been enough. But mother, between me and him, which do you like more? With his reddishly blood-colored eyes, the boy looks up with hope and anticipation. If only one of us can exist, which of us will you choose? The question left Bai Yin choked for words, because that's a dilemma no parent would ever want to choose. Obviously sensing the hesitancy in her voice, the boy hangs his head down again. I am not a person. I'm only a wisp of grudge left behind from the previous life. If between an unreal entity like myself and a real soul, I know mother will choose the soul. It's okay. I understand. I'm the unwanted one here, after all. I should have been long gone by now. Hurrying to hug him even tighter, Bai Yin frowns and refutes that logic. Don't say anything stupid. Since when have I thought of you as an unreal entity? You are my child, you and Xiachen, both are my baby boys. Don't worry, with the help of the celestial fox's blood, you two can live together in equilibrium. Shaking his little head, the boy knew that's not true. No, I can sense the power coming off of the celestial fox's blood. It will transfer my strength to Xiachen. By then, I will disappear on my own. What? Bai Yan's figure visibly stiffened up. If he takes the blood of the celestial fox, then he will disappear? So that means Chewy God deceived me? Mother, the reason I went to your dream to search for you is because I was unhappy and resentful of not being able to accompany you. And I couldn't hug you. Now that I know you love me, I am satisfied. Truth was this ghoul version of Bai Xiachen had always been able to see the outside world through the eyes of the regular version. So he knew full well what Bai Yin intended to do with that fox blood. Pity though, the good gesture was for naught, because it wouldn't have done what it was supposed to do. I've said it. I'll find a way to allow both of you to live in this body together. Growing increasingly more anxious in the face, Bai Yin presses her hands against the boy's shoulder to show she means it. Grinning. Actually, what that person said is not entirely false. The celestial fox's blood can merge me and the other me together. Just that I'm a grudge deprived from the soul in the past. It's the main reason why the other me is always so bright and happy. He's lacking the dark side that is I in his soul. If I merge with him, then that would in essence bring us back into one. And I too would be part of him forever again. Perhaps if this grudge hadn't existed to begin with, and stayed with Bai Xiaoqin's soul from the start, his personality might not be as lovable and cuddly as now. Maybe this wasn't the real personality the little steam bun should have had. Maybe he needs this grudge to become whole again. Stiffly turning to her own husband for confirmation, Bai Yin appeared almost distraught in the face. Is what he said true? That he will disappear completely inside Xiaoqin's soul if I use the fox blood? As adamant as he was about bringing the bad news, Di Song eventually nodded. I never told you this method is because it's true. It can help our son become whole again, but it will also mean he over there will disappear for good and live on as another part of our boy. Boom. Like a sunny day being hit by a thunderstorm from out of the blue, Bai Yan's already injured and struggling body finally gave in. She could hardly keep her footing and fell to the ground, those fists tightly clenching from pain and anger, until she could barely breathe. It's suffocating knowing what she nearly did with her own 2 hands. Blood for blood 1. Yenner. Finding the increasingly poor mood around his wife's face, Di Song knew he had to do something, hugging her to give comfort. You don't have to be too sad after all. They are supposed to be one and the same to begin with. He won't disappear like you think. He will only live on within Xiaoqin as one being. Biting her own lips, Bai Yin still didn't like how things are turning out. Other than that, is there no more way? Having her abandon this little guy was just too difficult for her to accept. Di Song understood why his wife was acting this way. It's not like he's heartless towards his own child. He too would like to find an alternative method if possible. However, he's been searching and investigating for quite some time already, and this was likely the best option they had at hand. Shuddering when she got no answer, Bai Yin hugs her boy again and closes those pained eyes. Di Song, if we leave Xiaoqin in this state, will he be in any danger? She asks again after a long moment of silence. Shaking his head. No, there won't be any as long as Xiaoqin's soul remains intact. Right now he's only sealed within that body, and gave control to the wisp of grudge. Other than the loss of freedom, there's nothing else that's going to put him in peril. Slightly dropping her head, a faint smile carves itself onto the woman's face. Xiaoqin, if it were you, what would you choose? Maybe you would also like to give him a chance. I don't believe there's no other way, Di Song. I'm sure if I look hard enough, then there's going to be a mean to allow them both to exist in this world on their own, without bringing harm to one another. Seeing the insistence and determined face of his wife, Di Song could only sigh and accept the plea. Nodding. All right, if you want to leave him as is for now, then I'll help you. The request undoubtedly brought happiness to the little boy, who never once left Bai Yan's arms. Even though his eyes are still the color of that bloodthirsty red, it's nevertheless full of a warmth and kindness now when staring up at Bai Yan's face. At the same, it also gave off an uncomfortable strong intent, like he's trying to engrave the woman's contour into his eyes, so that he would never forget it. Sure enough, right as the 2 parents were conversing on what to do next and freed the little boy, the ghoul version of Bai Xiaoqin had snuck over to one side and pulled out the bottle of blood he hid inside his coat. By the time Bai Yin realizes what was happening, it was already too late. To her horror, she witnessed the boy popping the cork and drinking that shiny red fluid down in one full swing. No! She screams with agonizing pain, tears stretching out into a streak as she dived over in a vain attempt to stop this. Sadly for Bai Yin, all was done by the time she managed to grapple the bottle from those little hands. She knew it's over. Whatever plan or wish she had planned to save both boys were forever gone. Mother, perhaps if not for you, then I would never have awoken from that state I was in. Wiping the trickle of blood still lingering around the corner of his lip, he continues to speak as the effects began to show itself. First it was the harshness around his voice, then the redness in his eyes fading. Back then you sacrificed yourself in order to save the demon realm. As your son, I can't put a blemish on your record either. Mother, please always remember me. I know I won't. Blood for blood 2. My only hope for giving up my existence is to protect you, because to me, you are my world. Mother, can you give me one last kiss on the forehead? Now the boy's entire body has become shrouded in a red glowing light, an indication the merging was almost complete. Without ado, Bai Yin leans down and tightly wounds her arms around his body, before giving a tearful kiss on the forehead as requested. She couldn't stop sobbing at this point. Appeased and smiling, the boy then turns to Ditsong to speak using an apologetic voice. Father, I'm sorry, but I didn't deliberately try to hurt you. I only forgot about you. You have to protect Mother from now on, and don't let Xiachen lose his mother again. It's enough for him alone to suffer the grievances of losing their mother. He doesn't want his new incarnation to go through the same thing in this life. Quietly coming before his son as well, Ditsong grasps onto that creepily cold hand. Don't worry, I will take care of her. I promise you, my son. That was all the words this resenting grudge needed to hear. As if released from its constraints, the dreary air of cold bloodthirstiness completely dissipates from the air, as the final last glint of light leaves the boy's eye. Right now, there's no more movement from Bai Xiachen's body, because whatever was done has finished. Ditsong, Bai Yin croaks this out from her pained voice. Do you think those from the Celestial Palace deserves to die? Unable to bear this picture, Ditsong reaches down and uses his large muscular arms to embrace his wife and unconscious child. Yes, they deserve that for what they've done to our family. As if provoked by those words, Bai Yin suddenly breaks out into a hysterical laughing fit. There's madness in her eyes, the kind that could only be created after they've lost someone closest to them. Yenner, I'm fine, Ditsong, you don't have to worry about me. That said, Bai Yin then slowly rose from the ground with her son in hold. During this time I'm going to stay at this mountain. It's very suitable for me to train here. Meeting his wife's gaze over that startling request, Ditsong had to take a good moment to accept this fact. If that's your decision, then I will support you. For Bai Yin, this period would be very important for herself. The reasoning being that once she leaves this mountain again, it would be the day she exacts her revenge on those from the Celestial Palace. Blood for blood, life for life. I'll be here with you. Bai Yin merely pursed her lips in silence. Staring down at her boy, the poor woman only has one question left in her mind. When will Xiachen wake up? He took the blood of the celestial fox, so it won't be for a while before he wakes up. The soul inside still needs to break the seal on its own. Nodding at that. All right, you step aside first. I want to call the celestial fox out again. She is more familiar with this peak, so it will be more convenient to have her guide us around. Ditsong's face went black at being dismissed. True, it's a fact that the celestial fox doesn't like the opposite sex, so he couldn't do much in this department. As such, the poor demon king could only obediently head for the base of the mountain on his own, scanning the surrounding area after being left alone. Celestial fox, I know you haven't left yet, come out. Sure enough, a small head immediately poked itself out of a nearby tree, probing carefully for any signs of the male sex. Blood for blood 3. When she saw that Ditsong's figure was nowhere to be seen anymore, the celestial fox finally lowered the disgust in its eyes and bounced right back out into the open. You little thing, weren't you acting all fierce when attacking me before? Bai Yin sends a knock with her knuckle against the fox's forehead, after seeing that wagging tail. In return, the little fella only made a wooing sound to show its apology. That's because I thought you were part of those bad people. I didn't know you were not with them. It's then right as the celestial fox felt safe in the woman's arm, the disgusting scent of a man had caught its nose again. Immediately, her first instinct was to make a dash for the bushes after puffing up that fur. Unfortunately for the fox, it's already too late. Catching her by the collar, Ditsong angrily stares down at the animal in his hands with a dark, menacing face. If not for you hating the male sex, my wife wouldn't have had to come here alone. If not for you being such a pest, my wife wouldn't have attracted those bastards either. Now how should I deal with you for making all this trouble? It's exactly as the Demon King says. Bai Yin only came into extreme danger because of this fox attracting the celestial clan's attention and bringing the hunting party over. Otherwise, she could have given birth without issue, albeit at never getting the blood for Bai Xiachen. Oh, the celestial fox struggled violently and didn't back down from Ditsong's face. In fact, the disgust in its eyes towards the man never lightened up in the least, and only grew stronger, narrowing his eyes in as well. Yenner, how about we eat a fox today for dinner? This threat instantly causes the fox to freeze up and not move anymore. It's tearing up at her own unfortunate fate, because she really regrets coming out of hiding today. Oh, this horrible man. How can he eat my flesh when he's also a fox? It's terrible. I knew it. Men are not good at all. Ditsong, she saved me, so quit scaring her. Bai Yin reaches over to bring the celestial fox back into her fold. Celestial fox, I'm really curious. Why do you hate men so much to begin with? Did they do something to you? It should have been easy to answer that question. But the little fella only stared at the woman in a dazed-like manner and didn't utter a peep. Why does she hate men so much? Actually, the celestial fox herself doesn't know either. All she knows was that something inside kept insisting on the matter, like someone did a horrible thing to her in the past. In the end, the fox could only shake its head to fling off the murky sensation. Then, as if that wasn't enough, she also pawed at Bai Yan's sleeve with teary eyes to plead for help against the Demon King still glaring daggers at herself. Don't worry, celestial fox. He is my husband, so he won't hurt you. Anyways, I want to ask you something else first. Just now my son hid away my other 2 babies somewhere. Do you know where they are? Apparently the fox did know because her eyes instantly lit up. Jumping down from Bai Yan's arm, she ran a couple of steps forward, and then didn't forget to turn around to beckon the woman to follow with a squeak. Ditsong wouldn't stay behind in this case, of course, but he did make sure to keep a little distance to avoid scaring the pesky feller again. Furthermore, he didn't trust the celestial fox one bit, or more exactly, he's grumpy and sour at being left behind by his wife due to this fox. Hidden deep within this sky mountain where snow was abundant, there's in fact a sacred area that's shielded off from the outside world. As an alchemist and a fluent user of spell matrices, Bai Yin was naturally able to notice this fact even from afar. Even so, she couldn't help but wonder who could have created such an amazing and complex barrier at the peak of this strange terrain. No wonder humans have such trouble climbing this mountain. The original creator of this barrier is a master spell user. Blood for blood for. After entering the barrier and walking some more, Bai Yin suddenly halts in her footsteps after finding what she wanted. Up ahead were a bunch of animals, and in the middle was a white female fox acting as a bed for 2 adorable little babies, who were constantly giggling and waving their hands into the air. It's obvious the 2 were enjoying their time right now and weren't in any danger. How did Jin Tian boy and Ling Yin girl get here? And how did Xiachen find this place? Bai Yin asks with a surprised face, which got a long squeak from the fox again. You mean it's these animals who brought and hid them here? She could mostly make out the meaning there based on the nods given by her little friend. It does make sense though. The outside was icy cold and unsafe for a newborn, making this cave an ideal hiding spot, if there's some kind of warmth, to keep the babies away from the frostbiting temperature. Specifically, the mother fox that's currently using its body as a bed for the 2 babies. Yenner, you're tired, give him to me and I'll carry him. Seeing there's no ulterior motive here, Ditsong decides to step in and offer to take care of their son, who was still unconscious, and clearly a weight on his wife who hasn't recovered yet. No. Her arm grows even tighter around the boy over that suggestion. I want to hold Xiachen a bit longer. Once I start my training later, then I won't have much time to spend with him. The energy particles within this cave was even more dense than the area outside, making it an ideal place to further her own strength and make a breakthrough. This time I won't leave here until I reach the high divine. Ditsong could tell there's no persuading his wife at this point now, that she's decided on the matter. Turning to the 2 babies instead who are still playing with the animals. Yenner, it's been hard on you. It's always like this. Whenever she gives birth, I can never be there by her side. I fail as a husband. Bai Yin shakes her head. No, Song, it's nothing I can't handle. Anyways, our daughter's name is Di Ling Yen, and our son's name is Di Jin Tian. Likely able to understand their mother was calling their name, the two adorable little meat buns actually began to wiggle around mischievously and causes their bed to go on alert. The white fox knew she had to keep the babies atop of herself to keep them warm, but she honestly never thought both babies would try to wiggle onto the ground at the same time. As a result, the fox only manages to catch the girl and missed the boy entirely, who landed on the ground. Oddly enough, Di Jin Tian didn't get hurt like one would expect in this case. Instead, he merely transformed into a tiny little silver fox upon hitting the dirt. And as if to shake off the confusion from the little bump, he starts crawling in Bai Yan's direction. Mother, hug. Because she had prior experience in giving birth, Bai Yan didn't find it surprising her two newborns are also able to speak like her first. Squatting down. Mother needs to hold on to your older brother right now, so I can't give you a hug. You have to be considerate of him, okay? What is considerate? Without surprise, the little Jin Tian didn't comply, and only showed a confused and dazed look like he didn't get it at all. In the baby boy's mind, he only wants to hug his mother. So like any newborn would do, he puckers up his lips like he's about to cry, and then turned to the next best thing nearby. His own father, who was also staring down at him. As a father, Song also likes to hold his children, but never really got the chance since he was not there for the firstborn. Now that the second son was looking his way, and likely willing to accept him, how could he not be overjoyed? Unfortunately for him though, the great demon king was overthinking this when he reached down in an attempt to lift the baby up. Mother, hug. Di Jin Tian turns back to Bai Yin in light of the offering hand, and instead reached out with both paws for the woman. Yenner, he's a man, let him crawl on his own. Song sourly says this with steam puffing out of his head. He's calling a newborn baby a man. Which part of Jin Tian looks like a man? Bai Yin thought, her mouth twitching awkwardly from disbelief. Unable to resist the plea anymore, Bai Yin loosens one of her arms around Bai Xiachen to pick the tiny fella up from the floor for a snuggle. Though it's more difficult to keep two kids on herself, she's nevertheless enjoying it all the more. Blood for Blood 5. Mother, hungry, want milk. The tiny silver fox pleads, his eyes blinking innocently without a clue of the looks he's getting. After a quick musing, Bai Yin relented and placed her eldest into Song's arms. Take care of Xiachen for me, I'll feed them right now. Without ado, little Di Ling Yin also crawls over to Bai Yan's side by this point after hearing there's food involved. Unlike a newborn though, she didn't show any of the wrinkles that's expected of a freshly birthed baby. She's absolutely adorable and cute, making one want to hug and cuddle her at first glance. Yenner, wait. Seeing how his wife's about to untie her upper dress, Song frowns and stops her. Turning to the animals here, his eyes were cool and frosty. What are you all still standing around for? Hurry and scram. Under the Demon King's mighty aura, the gathered creatures all scurried away like frightened little rabbits. Yen, did you try avoiding these animals back in the day when you were feeding Xiachen? Asked the grouchy husband. Giving a humming yes, Bai Yin didn't understand why his husband was acting all upset. I don't recall I ever did avoid them. In my eyes, these animals are no different from cats and dogs. That year when she first arrived in this world through the transfer of her soul, Bai Yin honestly thought nothing of it. What? Do everyone avoid cats and dogs when they breastfeed their baby? Of course not. Getting closer to his wife, Song somehow appeared very hurt. So in my wife's heart I'm no different from a dog and cat? That comment actually left Bai Yin in a stupor for a second. She's unable to process the words at first, but did eventually realize the mistake she did there. Apparently she's been so accustomed to seeing Song in his human form that she's forgotten he's also a fox. This, musing over her next words so she doesn't say something bad again, Bai Yin puts on a serious face. You are different from cats and dogs because you're more handsome than they are. Usually Song doesn't like it when people praise his looks. The reasoning He never wanted such a face to begin with. However, this was coming from his wife. That's different and brought glee to his lips. Yenner, I must correct this bad view of yours. When it comes to us beasts of the animal kingdom, demonkin or regular animal kin, we're all different. Some are very perverted, and will gobble you up if they can. Do you not see the eyes of those animals here just now? At the mention, Deetsong's eyes immediately flashed a cold one. Just thinking about those blasted things aiming at his wife's naked body was enough to burn a fire inside his heart. I'll pay more attention then. Bai Yin complies with an almost dejected tone. True. If he didn't mention this fact, then she might not even notice. However, he did, and she's starting to notice the sparkling eyes of those animals from way back with Xiachen, and her as well. They're all very focused on her body whenever she breastfed. Oh my god. Does that mean I'm a serial flasher? I've been flashing my naked body before those animals so many times that I've lost count. But little Jean Tian, boy, and Ling Yin girl, wasn't in the mood to care about their mother's woes. In these two babies' mind, they only want food, so the moment they noticed the loosened dress, the pair wasted no time crawling for it. And as a mother, Bai Yin happily obliged them when she noticed them struggling to get into her. For the boy, Jean Tian was surprisingly gluttonous compared to his younger sister. Even after Ling Yin finished her session and fell asleep, the boy kept going and drank for much longer until Bai Yin felt goosebumps run along her skin. Fortunately, this ordeal didn't last forever. About 15 minutes later, the little rascal finally stopped and made a satisfied burp before transforming back to a fat baby boy. Celestial Fox, you can come out now. Bai Yin calls out to the valley after cleaning herself off. Half a ring later, the group of animals once again returned over the beckoning. Blood for blood 6. Celestial Fox, I will leave Jean Tian and Ling Yin in your care. Bai Yin reluctantly hands the two babies over to the fox. Pursing her lips, I just saw a certain segment of the valley that I liked, so I'll be staying there for my training. If my babies are hungry, then bring them to me. Otherwise I need to be alone. The Celestial Fox squeaked in response, indicating she understood, and will do as told. It's just that the disgust in her eyes towards the Demon King never abated. By the way, Celestial Fox, Bai Yin first looks to her husband, then back to the fox. This place also has male animals. Why do you hate men from the outside so much despite this fact? The little fella snorted like the answer was obvious. These are her companions who had been with her since a long time ago. How could they be compared to those abominable men? Regardless, she just hates men. If it wasn't for Bai Yin, she would never have allowed a man to step into her territory. Able to guess the gist of that snort, Bai Yin pats her husband's shoulder as a pitying gesture. So even someone as handsome as Deetsong will be disliked one day. But contrary to the pitying look from his wife, Deetsong didn't feel much from this, and even found it nice for a change. In comparison to having those wishful thoughts about himself from those females, this was way better because it won't let Bai Yin misunderstand him. Deetsong, if you have something to do, then you can leave first. I'm very safe here in the Sky Mountain. Don't worry, Yenner. Go ahead and be at ease during your training. If the demon realm requires me, then I will go handle it on my own. Okay. She nods, not wanting to be a baggage to the rest of the demon world. Giving one final glance to her eldest boy who was still unconscious, Bai Yin has pretty much tied up any loose ends here on her part. Stealing that heart, she firmly walks toward the mentioned part of the valley. Demon City. After the departure of their king and queen, this new frontier for the Demonkin hasn't had a single day of peace thus far. First came the rumor of Deetsong wanting a concubine and driving the queen away. Then came the second invasion of the celestial realm. Thankfully, First Elder and his brothers were able to come out of their closed-door training in the nick of time and repelled the attackers. Otherwise, the damage and loss would be extensive that day. Pity though, due to how quickly and rushed the elders were in returning to making a breakthrough. The rumor about the concubine business still hasn't been cleared up. For that mistake, another year has passed with that hovering in the air. As for the communities in the celestial realm, oddly enough, some were beginning to forget about this demon city after having so little news and action from them thus far. But the Celestial Palace wouldn't think like that though. They wanted to retake the settlement on many occasions, however. Every time they tried to attack in force, Chewy God would promptly send out a warning to stop them in their tracks. Of course, there's one specific individual who dreaded this stalemate the most, and that was Yun Ruoxi. Unlike the rest, only this dreaded imposter knew that the precious charm around her neck, the item signifying her current lifestyle and status, would one day return to its true owner if things doesn't change. "Miss," a maid calls out after noticing the lady coming out of the room. "The keepers are asking you to meet them in the Great Hall." Blinking her eyes, "The keepers are looking for me? How come? Why are they asking for me when they should be thinking up a plan to deal with the demons?" After a long silence, she pursed her lip and decides to heed the summoning despite the questions in her mind. 1 year later. Inside the great meeting hall, the keepers are already sitting in their respected seats and giving off a majestic air of authority with their presence. This was what Yun Ruoxi walked into, and she felt uncomfortably on edge under their gaze. "Dear keepers, is something the matter for summoning me so urgently?" "Ruoxi, you're here." Speaking out to greet the woman was Keeper Ling, who toned down his cold and frosty expression. "We've been discussing on a certain matter for a while now. It's clear that the Celestial Lord is unhappy with us, and won't permit the Celestial Palace to do anything to those demons right now. I'm afraid it will just be a matter of time before our world falls into the hands of those demons." A shade of white gripped Yun Ruoxi's face. When the splitting image of Bai Yan standing above herself again like all those years ago, she would feel immeasurable rage. "No, I won't allow her to step atop of my head again. Nor will I let Chewy God yearn after her for all his life. Revered keepers, please go ahead and instruct me." Drawing her lips into a thin line, Yun Ruoxi appears firm in the eye on wanting to fight. "As long as it's something within my ability, then I would go through fire and ice to achieve it." Nodding pleasantly over the quick reply, Keeper Ling turns back to his brethren who's also listening in. "Look at Ruoxi. Only someone as understanding and kind like her can be called outstanding. Compared to the one brought back by that old coot, her ability is here for all to see." Despite the proud speech, the others didn't comment on it, because it did involve their former leader, and the previous Bai Yan. Yes, they feared what Bai Yan could do, there's no mistake about that. But it's also true they did like the girl when the old coot first brought her back from the outside. For one thing, the talent portrayed by Bai Yan was leagues ahead of Ruoxi, to the point everyone thought she would eventually be on par with Chewy God. However, fate wouldn't have it, and things quickly spiraled out of their control until, well, they all knew what they did, and the sin they committed for the sake of protecting the celestial realm. "Ruoxi, the reasoning for calling you here today is because we have found a way to restore your health to its former state. That year you sacrificed yourself at the risk of your own life to save the Celestial Lord. And now we will return that sacrifice by allowing your power to grow at speeds beyond your imagination." Keeper Zun, Ashen Robe Keeper, softly explains with a smile of his own. Sparkling with elation at the thought of becoming truly strong, Yun Ruoxi jumped on the idea and hurriedly nodded, almost shaking in her voice due to the excitement. "Is that true? I can really continue to cultivate and grow stronger than before? I honestly thought I would never be able to recover. Of course, why would we lie?" Keeper Zun frowns after remembering the conditions needed. "Just that this method is a bit troublesome. We will need the blood of the most supreme bloodline from the fox race. And it must be from a female baby at that. Right now we only know one that can match the requirement, and that is Demon King Deetsong. Only by drinking his bloodline's blood can we restore your body to its former state, and allow your strength to grow exponentially faster. The blood of the Demon King's bloodline, and it must be a female baby fox?" Yun Ruoxi bit her own lip in frustration, because she knew how impossible that would be. However, as far as we know there is only one female fox that's related to the Demon King. That Di Xiao one would have been barely good enough to qualify. But she's already come of age, so we cannot use her anymore. 1 year later, 2. Unless. But before Keeper Zun could finish his sentence, the always cold and hardliner Keeper Ling had already cut him off with a grunt. Unless we turn to Ditsong's future daughter, that is. Drain his daughter's blood, and then bath in it for 49 days. Afterwards you need to eat her carcass. Only then will your body recover and grow incredibly strong, thus paving the way for your limitless growth. That actually shocked Yun Ruoxi because she didn't even think in that direction. Then again, she didn't mind doing that. Just that where was she supposed to get a demon king's daughter, when there wasn't one around? Bowing her head to avoid eye contact. Revered keepers, isn't this too much? Keeper Zun sighed as well, believing the lady was being too kind instead of only finding the task difficult to do. We don't have any other choice here either. Although we detest the demon realm and its kind, but slaughtering a newborn fox is still a sinful act, we know that. However, we're on our last legs at this point. Snorting again at his fellow brethren, Keeper Ling didn't agree with the indecisive and kind words being thrown around. Demons only nothing but inferior creatures in this world. Compared to Ruoxi, who will one day rule the celestial realm along with the Lord, how can some lowly fox compare with her future? What's going on, Keeper Ling? Is there something I don't know? She didn't miss the behavior of the elder, and caught on it like a cat chasing a mouse. It's widely known that Keeper Ling could be cold and ruthless when needed, but that's only when it's necessary. Normally this elder would always be kind to those around him. If he's this urgent and willing to go this far and insult the other keepers, it must be something extraordinarily huge. It's that prophecy. The prophet from back then predicated a great calamity will befall this world in the coming future. Only by finding the person with the crescent moon amulet will we be saved. Since you are that person carrying the moon amulet around your neck, we must ensure your recovery. Only then can we maintain the peace of the celestial realm. Keeper Zun explains with a bittersweet smile. Going stiff as a rock, Yun Ruoxi quivered inside. What calamity? You mean? How come I never knew of that? No one knows better than herself on how she got her hands on this amulet. The issue now was what's this calamity they are talking about? She's never heard of such thing before. And what if they find out she's a fake and not the real deal? Believing the lady's just nervous at the sudden news, and not because she's afraid of being exposed, Keeper Zun softens up his voice in order to help relieve that stress. You don't need to worry too much on this, Ruoxi. That prophet is the strongest individual I have ever seen in my lifetime. There's no mistake in what he says. Though he did leave right after giving us that prophecy, there's no reason to doubt his words. That's right. If not for that reasoning, these keepers wouldn't have doted on this impostor for so long, nor would they try to force Chewy God to marry this woman. Unfortunately for them though, that perennially expressionless man had long overtaken them all in terms of strength, forcing these keepers on the defensive regarding that matter, and losing control of the celestial palace. Now despite the kind words of Keeper Zun, it only made the matter worse for Yun Ruoxi. She's absolutely dreading what's coming in the future, and could be seen by the visible drain of blood from that face. Then when is the calamity's arrival? She forces this question out there with her quivering voice. We don't know the exact time either, only that we can feel when it's drawing close. Shaking his old head, Keeper Zun, who was among one of the kindest here, also turned stern. Everyone, I like to say something. Gathering the attention of all. We have been at war with the demon realm for ages at this point, and even sealed them away for a period. However, the calamity that we all know is coming will destroy us all, the demons included. There's no good outcome if we continued this fight. So, I like to make a suggestion. If Ditsong is willing to produce a young female foxling for Ruoxi to use, then I say we make peace with their kind to deal with the impending crisis. Is everyone with me on this? Once again, Keeper Ling interrupts with sneer. And if Ditsong isn't willing to surrender his daughter? What then? We all know what that demon can do. For a single woman, he wouldn't hesitate to charge into an army back then and wage war against us for years. 1 year later, 3. Without exception, everyone made a shudder upon bringing back up that memory from way back. How could they forget that scene? It was unbelievable, watching that single person charge in an army of tens of thousands, and then destroying them all for the sake of a single woman. Not even they themselves could stand in the way of that harbinger of destruction. For a while, silence hangs in the air of this great hall. I understand what everyone is thinking right now, but let's not forget Deetsong still has the demon realm to rule. He may not care about himself, but I doubt he will ignore the survival of his citizens. Keeper Zun finally spoke up after seeing the low morale of his brethren. Sneering in his voice yet again, Keeper Ling points out the flaw in that logic. And how can you be certain he will forsake his own daughter for the well-being of the demon realm? Deetsong is a madman that can give up his own life for a single woman. What makes you think he won't do it again? It's undeniable that of all the realms known to them, the celestial realm was among the strongest. But for Bai Yen alone, Deetsong would wage war against them, and nearly succeeded back then. Such a crazy nutcase, who could say for certain they are able to predict his actions? If it really doesn't work, then we can use some other method to persuade him. That wife of his is also an alchemist. I'm sure we can force her in some way to help Ruashi to recover. Another keeper suggests after listening to the two arguing. Putting on a pitiful and teary face, after seeing how they're all pushing herself into the matter, Yun Ruashi really didn't want to do this. Revered keepers, I am ashamed of making you all expend so much effort on myself. Please, just let me be like this for the rest of my life. I don't want to drag you all down with me. No shit, she doesn't want to recover. If he does, then wouldn't that mean she'd be pushed into the front lines? That would be catastrophic. Besides, she knows her own talent better than anyone else. What savior of this world? Even back in her prime, she could barely keep up with Bai Yan's growth. And that was thanks to all the treasures and amazing alchemic ingredients given to her by Bai Yan in secret. Yun Ruashi may believe she's thought up a good excuse on the issue, but that's not what these elders are thinking. Immediately, a set of dissatisfied frowns filled their faces. You don't have to think about it so much, Roshi. We're only here to inform you of what we are going to do. For the sake of this world, for the sake of repelling the impending calamity, we will do everything in our powers to help you recover. That was equivalent to a death sentence for the lady. Her heart felt endless horror, until she couldn't properly utter another word. Go ahead and rest first, Ruashi, Keeper Ling continues with a smile. And if you protect the world from that calamity, I'm sure the Lord will also be grateful towards you. By then, wouldn't it be easy to convince him to marry you? One year later, a visible tremble could be visibly seen across the lady's face. Back then, Chui God would give up Bai Yen for the sake of the celestial realm. Perhaps he would do the same, and marry her if she helps save this world? Revered keepers, I will not cower or hide for the sake of this world. As long as she could marry Chui God before the calamity strikes, then even if it's only for a single night, she won't regret it. After dropping those words, Yun Roshi didn't wait and resigned herself for what's to come. Leaving the room, the lady didn't forget to close the door behind herself on this occasion. Meanwhile, back in the conference hall, the air has become eerily quiet again, until Keeper Ling broke the silence. Everyone, our feud with the demon realm is unending, so having us go bargain for the deal is out of the question. I know only two who can handle such a task. Who? The Celestial Lord. That last came to the Celestial Palace, since she was young, and grew up under the care of the Lord. If we have him go, then it will be a huge boon. The second is that crazy old coot, we can use him as well. Grumbling in his voice, Keeper Zoom clearly didn't believe this would work based on his expression. And how do you expect us to persuade that old coot to do as we say? Don't think just because he's all crazy nowadays that he will do as we instruct. He understands a lot more than he lets on. Back then we only managed to go after that girl, because we tricked him to go off somewhere. Otherwise the plan would have died in its infancy if he had found out. Sure enough, Keeper Ling didn't refute that claim, and became quiet for a while. Then we have no choice but to rely on the Lord. He cares about the celestial realm, so he's our greatest candidate. Moreover, I know he still misses the lass from the hearts down. If we promise him to allow his marriage with Bai Yen, then I'm sure he will do as we say. This, Keeper Zun actually became lost for words. Doesn't he hate the girl to the bone? Why would he give such a commitment? Keeper Ling obviously noticed the suspicious gaze coming his way, smiling shadily. I'm only tricking the Lord. Once the calamity is over, I won't let a single one from the demon realm go. Rising from his chair, Keeper Zun sighs and showed a bittersweet smile on his face. Then I will go ahead and try to contact the Lord. For the sake of the big picture, we have no choice but to do this. Let's just hope that girl doesn't hate us anymore, so we can do this without incident. Time flowed like water for Bai Yen, who had been on this sky mountain for well over a year by this point. She's grown much stronger since then. But despite hitting the peak of the middle divine stage, she's now at a bottleneck and couldn't progress any further. Mother, second brother is picking on me again. Right as Bai Yan's about to take a break, a cuddly and babyish voice calls out to her from the front. This child had a very tender face like a little peach, but those eyes were gorgeous and watery, though her footwork left a lot to be desired still because of how unsteady she was walking. One could nevertheless tell she would one day grow up to be a fine beauty. Reaching down to pick up the precious little girl, she pinches that nose as a form of play. And how did your second brother pick on you this time? The fruits picked by little Foxy has been taken by him. I also want to eat the sour and sweet fruits. Even though Di Ling Yen girl was about to become 2 years old at the end of this year, she's nevertheless still a child, so it's normal for her to act like a baby. However, her words are already very mature and could hold proper conversations due to her royal lineage. One year later, 5. Her big eyes are watery and full of grievance when looking up at Bai Yen. Mama, second brother eats so much, he took all of the fruits little Foxy prepared for us. Woohoo, I don't like second brother anymore. The way she said that was truly melting to the heart, because when she cried, the peachy-faced girl didn't forget to rub her eyes with those tiny hands. Be good, Ling Yen. We only need to have your little Foxy pick some more for you. Bai Yen cuddles her daughter some more to stop that weeping. Truly, of all the things that's occurred over the year, these 2 babies are her greatest joy, and the driving force for removing the gloom hovering in her life, due to her eldest's unchanging condition. Mama, I want big brother. Suckling her own finger like a typical child, Ling Yan's voice was all milky and soft to the ear. I heard from Papa that big brother likes me the most. He will definitely not hog the fruits to himself. In the heart of this baby girl, those who take her food are all big baddies. A ripple plowed through Bai Yan's heart over the stark reminder, aching in her voice. Ling Yan, let's go see your big brother then. I'm sure he will also like to have you accompany him. And I'm sure he will wake up soon if you keep talking to him. It's been so long already, Xiachen should be waking up soon. But before the mother and daughter pair could even make it all that far, the baby holding the woman's pinky to walk steadily, Di Ling Yen had already started to show signs of fatigue. Mama, Carrie, staring down at her own daughter. Your big brother could already walk very well by your age back then. How come you are so adverse to walking? Not getting it, Ling Yen continues to plead with those watery eyes. Mama, carry me. Like most mother, Bai Yen would often fall victim to this behavior from their own babies. However, before she could reach down to give the girl a lift, one of the animals nearby had already caved in and crouched down to give her a ride. Likewise, some of the other animals nearby also saw this and came over as well, which in kind made the woman go black in the face because it finally dawned on her. So that's why these 2 are unable to walk still. It's all because of these animals. They probably never once allowed them to touch the ground. Ling Yan, you must walk by yourself. Retracting her arms, she shifts her gaze over to the animals gathered around themselves with a warning look. And you bunch are not allowed to give her a ride from now on. She must learn to walk on her own, understand? A quiver shook their hearts. Their heads hung lower as a result due to submission. But those pleading eyes of these animals indicated they didn't want to watch idly by while their baby girl struggled. There is no negotiation on this, she snaps, killing all hope of changing this order. Ling Yan, you are a good daughter, and mother here only like good little girls. Are you a good girl? If you are, then we can go see your big brother. Bai Xiachen lectures his sibling. 1. Under the motherly goading of Bai Yan's words, the peachy baby that was Di Ling Yan didn't resist anymore, and continued to walk towards the wooden cabin located not far from their location. Unfortunately, due to how little she's walked, the girl didn't make it all that far in her toddling state before tripping over a branch. Ling Yan! Bai Yan exclaims in great fright. But before a helping could be extended, the girl had already climbed back up from the ground. Sure, Ling Yan's knee did make a scrape that drew an itsy-bitsy drop of blood, but that's all it took to make her tear up. Hurt. In the end, Bai Yan could only yield under her daughter's pitiful appearance. After all, the girl's only 1, barely 2 by the end of this year. How could she be so harsh on her? Ling Yan, do you want mother here to hold you? Reaching out with open arms, she had every intent to do so, which in kind drew a sparkling look from the peachy girl's eyes who was offered the chance. However, instead of running into those arms like she always did, Di Ling Yan only hanged her head down and shook it like a rocking drum. I will walk by myself. Unable to resist a smile over that strong will, Bai Yan felt proud of this daughter. Good Ling Yan, you are so good. Come, let's go see your big brother. Inside the wooden cabin, Bai Xiachen continues to lay motionlessly atop of the bed prepared for him, despite the strong ray of sunlight coming through the window and hitting his face. He's been in this comatose state for all this time, never once showing signs of recovery. Then suddenly, as if beckoned by the world, that little face twitched. After more than a year of this, his eyes open, popping wide like he's regained his soul, and became renewed with life. Squeal. The door to the cabin gets pushed open then, and draws the boy's attention. Immediately, his fuzzy eyes were presented with the familiar face of a surprised woman clad in a reddish dress of rose color. Mother! Without any ado, Bai Xiachen jumps right out of the bed and threw himself into Bai Yan's body, tightly wounding his arms around her waist. Mother! I feel like I slept for a long time. I miss you. Looking down at her eldest, this poor mother who's been worried sick for all this time finally felt a boulder lift off her shoulder. Xiachen, welcome back. Perhaps those were the words needed to release the dam inside his memory, but the boy froze in that split second. I remember now. I gave up control of my body to the other me, but how did I return? It can't be. The other me willingly returned control to me? Oh, whatever. As long as I can be with mother, then I don't care what happened. Mother! I'm so happy to be able to see you again. I had a long dream. I dreamt that I was in a lonely dark place, unable to find my way out. I really thought I would never be able to see you again. Pursing his lips into a thin line, Bai Xiachen looks up to meet Bai Yan's gaze, and realized it wasn't only him who was crying right now, she too as well. Bai Xiachen lectures his sibling too. It's like this period was all but a dream for the boy, and when he woke up Bai Yan was just like before, standing there and waiting for him to wake up with a smile. Nothing's changed. Big brother is crying, so embarrassing. It's then a milky and childish voice came from the side, catching Bai Xiachen's attention. Twisting his head to one side, he was finally graced with the image of the baby girl. A sweet, sweet peachy baby that made him want to take a quick nibble out of it. Of course, Bai Xiachen had always been one to act on his ideas. Without further ado, he picks the baby up and kisses her on the cheek. Mother, my little sister smells so good. She is far more beautiful than Wang Xiaopeng's sister. Looking at her own daughter, Bai Yan really had to wonder where his eldest got this idea. Such a small baby would at most be called cute. Where does he even find the word beautiful to describe one so young? Xiachen. Bai Yan turns to his eldest again. The wisp of resentment occupying your body is now completely integrated into your body. Speaking of this topic, the poor woman undoubtedly felt a sting poking at her heart. That sad and grieving face, how could she ever forget? Perhaps he's able to sense the grief as well. Bai Xiachen gripped the woman's hand and turns the situation around to soothe Bai Yan instead. Don't be sad anymore, mother. I will always be by your side and stay with you. I will also overturn the heavens with you. Pressing down the negative emotions, she forces a faint smile. All right, I believe you. Anyways, are there any changes to your body? I want to make sure you're all right. A momentary daze filled the boy's eye in that second, wrinkling his nose after checking. Mother, I think I can feel a cluster of gas inside me. What? Shocked by the idea, Bai Yin grew frantic and examined her son all over. She's already lost one child before in the past life. She could no longer afford to lose another in this one. Sure enough, the woman did find what the boy was talking about. Instead of a cluster of gas like Bai Xiachen describes it, the oddity was more akin to a cloud of red mist hovering around her son's beast core. Xiachen, do you feel in any way uncomfortable? Asked Bai Yin. No, I don't. We'll find your father later. He should be able to tell what the red mist is, she says after musing over the problem. Unexpectedly though, Bai Yin had just wanted to pull her spiritual feelers out of her boy's body when something strange occurred. The red mist, it started to slowly flow in Xiachen's beast core, nourishing it and helping it grow. Unlike humans who has a dantian when they cultivate, a demon and demonic beast will produce a nucleus core when they grow stronger. Bai Yan's heart shook over this discovery. Is this what the other Xiachen meant by he will help protect me? Needless to say, that assumption would be correct. It's a precious revelation that warmed the mother's heart, but at the same time it brought bittersweet pain, knowing she couldn't save both boys at the same time. For that reasoning, her hatred for the Celestial Palace only grew deeper. They will pay for what they did to my family. I will return all the pain they instilled upon me and my son, everything. Mama, don't cry. Finding the tears continuing to leak out, Di Ling Yen girl reaches up with her tiny little hands to help wipe that cheek. Bai Xiachen lectures his sibling 3, Xiachen. Understanding she's showing a bad side before her children, Bai Yin hurries to clean herself up. The pain we experienced in the past will not happen again. I won't let it. Those in the Celestial Palace will hurt for what they did. Under those embracing arms, the boy's expression gradually relaxed as well, and revealed the iconic bright smile of his from the past. Okay, I believe in you, mother. As long as you say it, I will believe it. When the woman made that vow, a serious flash of killing intent definitely sparked in those eyes. Just that the intent quickly went away when looking down at her children. Come you two, let's go find your brother and father. That drew a displeased pucker from the boy. Obviously Bai Xiachen still didn't forget the suffering this younger brother of his caused to his mother, hence the bad reception. However, in order to not let Bai Yin be unhappy, he could only hold on to his little sister's hand and slowly follow along. Not far away, inside a forested area, apparently a certain baby silver fox was very much enjoying himself right now, and that was Bai Yin her 2 kids saw when they arrived at the location. They could see how ridiculous the picture was. 2 animals climbing the fruit tree and shaking the branches, so the fruits would fall off into the baby fox's mouth. Mother, noticing the familiar face, the little glutton attempts to crawl over. Unfortunately for him though, he's eaten way too much. In order to move, the only option he has was to lie on the ground and roll over on his tummy, leaving a paw print once he manages to cling onto the woman's skirt. Mama, I want to eat meat. I want to eat meat. Bai Yan's face literally went black over her second son's behavior. It's bad enough he's unable to walk and could only roll over. He's now suckling that finger with drool coming out. Wait first, you need to digest what you've eaten. Puckering that lip in displeasure. I'll digest it very quickly. I want to eat meat. I want the meat made by mother. Just that before the gluttonous boy could whine some more, Di Ling Yen had jumped in. Forking her little arms around the waist, the peachy girl was already showing her powerful might from being Di Tsong's blood. Read more chapter on VIP novel. Calm bad brother. You took the fruits from me. You are big baddie. Don't give him meat, mother. That's definitely a sore spot for the gluttonous baby boy. Looking towards Bai Yin with those aggrieved eyes of his, he's still salivating despite the fact. Oh, I want meat. What am I supposed to do? Jean Tian, come greet your big brother first. Your big brother is now awake. When I'm not around in the future, the 2 of you are to listen to him. Understand? Blinking those big eyes of his, Jin Tian turns to the mentioned boy who was starting down at himself. With a smile, he reaches out with his small paw. Big brother, how come you've been sleeping for so long and not play with us? Bai Xiachen lectures his sibling for. When Bai Xiachen saw how his little brother's dirty little paws were about to come into contact with his clothes and leave a print, the boy immediately jerked backwards and avoided the close call. Mama, does big brother not like me? Jin Tian turns to his mother for an answer after grasping at air. He's looking all teary and aggrieved right now due to the treatment. Undoubtedly true. His eldest brother held an improper opinion of this little glutton, due to how much pain Bai Yan had to go through in order to give birth. But now upon seeing the tearing up face of the baby boy, not even Bai Xiachen could keep up his iron heart, and promptly softened up. How could he not? Don't cry. Bai Xiachen steps back over and stared nervously at those two little paws that's covered in dirt. The way he's acting was like someone heading off to the execution grounds. If you want to grip my robe, then go ahead. That's right. After years of teaching and lecturing from Bai Yan, the future demon prince of this world actually has a phobia against being dirty. If he so much as catches a stain, then it would be akin to torture. But, turning his eyes, Bai Xiachen suddenly got a sweet idea. Afterwards, you are not allowed to bully your sister anymore. And you are not to take her fruits. She is a girl and needs to be doted, you understand? Making a confused face at his older brother, Jin Tian clearly didn't understand all that well, but nodded anyways. In his view, whatever Bai Xiachen says was right and couldn't be wrong. Then, I'll be more careful in the future. Satisfied by that answer, the now eldest Steambun actually went ahead to give his younger Steambun a pat on the shoulder, like a big adult facing a child. Father said it before, the men of our family must protect the girls in the family. Mother and little sister are girls, so me and you must protect them. Nodding heavily, Jin Tian cries out in compliance using his milky and childish voice. I am a man. I am a man. Now that's a good boy. Giving Jin Tian a good rub on the head as a prize. Remember now, if there's ever a boy daring enough to come near your sister, break his leg. Bai Yan instantly blew up with a plume of black smoke over her own head. She's already seen how Di Tsong would get excessively protective of their daughter. And now there's also these two rascals going at it. Why does she feel so sorry for her future son-in-law? Read more chapter on VIP novel. Jin Tian didn't find the logic wrong at all, though in comparison to his mother's view. Nodding with enthusiasm, the baby boy now looked on to his older brother with admiration, despite how wrong the whole situation was. Big brother, Papa said you are very strong. Can you teach me how to get stronger? I also want to cultivate and protect Mother and Ling Yan. You're too young right now. Wait until you're all grown up first. Bai Xiachen says it like a big adult. Biting his own finger, the little glutton now sounded troubled. Then when can I start learning from you? Caressing his own chin and contemplating. Bai Xiachen apparently didn't think that far ahead, and had to take a good moment to come up with an answer. 3 years old. Wait until you're 3, and then I'll allow you to tag along. Right now you're still an immature baby. Bai Yan literally wanted to scream in that second. She almost facepalmed herself because the way her eldest said it right there sounded like he's also a grown-up. In reality, Bai Xiachen's only a child himself, barely a young teen. It's then right as this poor mother wanted to put a stop to this hilarious and silly conversation. She stopped because her eyes had caught sight of that familiar figure up ahead. With silver hair, a purple robe, and a face so handsome it makes the world drool. Di Tsong has been standing there and leaning against the big old tree for a while now. It's obvious this demon king was relishing in this intimate moment between his children and his wife. Revenge Plan 1? Yenner. The man's voice may be low and hoarse, but it's powerful with a hint of charm to it, thus causing a seducing effect with his smile. In fact, it's magical to Bai Yan's ear, because she just couldn't resist a chuckle from this. Without further ado, both of them rushed towards each other to embrace one another. Bai Xiachen saw this, and also strolled towards his parents with Di Ling Yan in hand. But as for the little glutton in the back, poor Jean Tion could only call out in order to not be forgotten. Brother, brother. Jean Tion reaches out with a hand to show what he wanted from his older brother. Unfortunately, Bai Xiachen only shot a glance instead of opening up. You walk on your own. Tearing up in grievance. But you are willing to hold Ling Yen, why not me? Is it because big brother doesn't like me? No, Ling Yen is a girl, so she needs to be spoiled. You on the other hand is a man, you need to learn to walk on your own. At the moment Bai Xiachen has completely forgotten his own experience. Right when he was Jean Tion's age, he too would always whine to have Bai Yen hold him instead of walking on his own. However, the past was the past. This now big steambun has become a big brother. That meant he needs to act like one and show off the needed requirement of guidance to the younger siblings. Big brother is right, I am a man. I can't be as soft as Ling Yen. Blinking his big blue eyes, Jean Tion thought to himself and grew excited. As such, this little glutton promptly stopped trying to get a hand from his big bro, and instead followed from the side on his own. His determination was proven even when he tripped over a branch. Unlike his sister who would likely cry in this case, Jean Tion only ruffled up his nose and climbed back up to give chase. Mama only hugged Papa. Throwing herself in between the couple, Ling Yen didn't like being left out by her parents once she was close enough. Sure enough, Bai Yen and Di Song could only break apart in their hug over this interjection. Mama, clinging to her mother's pinky. I also want a hug. Just a small one is enough. Papa is so embarrassing, always wanting Mama to hug him. Visit our comic site, read novel full. Live in response, Di Song only felt a black gloom of dread covering his own face. Xiachen, hurry and take your sister away. In the Demon King's view, it was already bad enough he had one son to contend with for his wife's attention. Now he also has a daughter to contend with? Did she forget who wiped her butt and cleaned her as a baby? Doing as told, Bai Xiachen happily obliged the request, since that meant he could spend some quality time with his sister. Leaning down, he meets the girl's eye on equal level. Ling Yen, do you want big brother here to bring you out to play? Mother and father have something to discuss right now, so let's not disturb them. Tilting her head over the suggestion. Is there any little fruits to eat? Of course, Ling Yen. Big brother here will bring you anything you want. Just like he says, Bai Xiachen would pluck the stars out of the sky if she asks him of it. How could he not? This adorable little sister was something he wanted for years by this point. Revenge plan 2. Then I want to eat little fruits. Big brother, take me to pick them, okay? Hooking her arms around Bai Xiachen's neck, Ling Yen starts whining like any typical baby would do. Nodding sweetly over that request, the big steambun didn't forget to turn back to his little brother, who was following closely from the back. Jean Tion, you come too. We will go pick fruits for your sister. By this point Jean Tion has already taken his older brother as an idol, so whatever he says he would do. However, due to his inability to stay stable during his little toddle, the tiny baby would often trip over the rocks or whatever. Thankfully his perseverance was strong, and would climb right back up without tearing up. From beginning to end, Bai Xiachen never once lent a helping hand. Bai Yen smiled at her children's playful exchange. It looks like Xiachen has completely grown up this time. He's teaching his younger brother and sister new things. That said, she slowly turns to her own husband before continuing. By the way, Di Song, have there been any news from State Teacher? Did he find a way to remove the seal on Xiaowan, Demon Princess, yet? Faintly nodding. He wrote a letter some time ago. According to the content, he's found a place that can help lift the seal on my sister. However, it's also very dangerous, so he doesn't want to let her know yet. Pursing her lip into a thin line. Then what about the demon realm? Did anything happen while I was here? The people from the Celestial Palace is incapable of making a move against us just yet. What's more, the ones they really want to deal with is us here, not those living in the demon city. Until they themselves fall, those people won't do anything to the demon realm or its denizens. Hearing this, Bai Yen was quietly relieved inside. Do me a favor, Di Song. Take our children back to the demon city first. and then make a challenge to the Celestial Palace in our name. I'm sure at least 2 or more of those keepers will come knocking at our doors then." Frowning in his face, Deetsong didn't understand why. "And you? What are you going to do?" Bai Yin sneered. "With our current strength, overthrowing the power balance in the celestial realm is out of the question. However, that doesn't mean I can't make those bastards suffer a little loss." "Is it going to be dangerous?" Deetsong approached his wife to make sure she's not trying to lie on this topic. "I don't want you to take any danger." "Don't worry, even if there is danger involved this time, I have full confidence in escaping unscathed. You only need to help me distract some of those keepers, and I will do the rest. They will definitely puke some blood after seeing what I'm going to do to them." She would never forget those eyes filled with excruciating pain, nor would she forget the people who died trying to save her in those dreams. Visit our comic site, read novel full. Live Celestial Palace. It's time they settled the debt once and for all. I believe you." As unwilling as he was about letting her go alone, Deetsong eventually gave in, knowing how stubborn this woman was. "I'll wait for you to come back. Me and our children will." Making a humming sound, Bai Yin also felt a little worried and quickly added, "Remember, Deetsong, I only need you to distract some of those keepers. Don't do anything rash while I'm away." Revenge Plan 3. Okay. If doing so could allow his wife to vent her anger, then Deetsong would let it go this one time. "I can promise you that, however, you must also bring Xiachen with you. Only then will I be at ease. I still have other things I need Xiachen to do, believe in me, Deetsong. Now that Jin Tian and Ling Yan is in this world, I need to work hard to give them a peaceful life." After she says that with clear determination, Bai Yin takes the lead and leans in to kiss her husband to seal the deal. This was the right choice in this situation because Deetsong had already felt restless to begin with, knowing he would leave his wife to fight alone. But the kiss quickly placed that unrest at ease and brought out the puppy wolf in him. Pushing his wife against the old tree, he went all in on the tongue. "Yenner, I'll only give you this one chance. If you fail, then I won't ever let you out of my sight again." This woman was his life. If it hadn't been for the disappearance of the grudge inside their son, he would never allow this to take place. Also, don't go up against those demi-divine lord levels. If you encounter any, then just run. I'll come to you right away. This was the last and final bottom line for Deetsong, drawing a grin on the face after getting her way. "I understand. You go back first and get ready. Once those keepers leave the Celestial Palace, then I'll go." Years prior, her own biological mother Bai Ning was able to single-handedly smash into the Celestial Palace. And now she's going to bloodstain that wretched place. "I will wait for you at the Demon City." Moving the bang of loose hair from his wife's forehead, Deetsong gives another yearning peck on her lips. "Remember, I will only let you act alone this one time, so you must protect yourself, okay? I don't want to see you getting injured and blood-ridden again." Bai Yan's face went rigid. She wanted to say something again, but the Demon King didn't give her chance because he's turned and went in the same direction of where the children left in. For a long while, the lady herself didn't speak as she watched that departing back. Oh, suddenly, a whimpering came from the side and brought her back to attention. It's the Celestial Fox, and she's pawing at her like she wanted to say something. "What's the matter?" Whimpering some more, the fox ran a few steps forward to signal for her to follow. Though a bit taken aback by the instruction, Bai Yin didn't hesitate. After all, she's now built up a good relationship with the animals here. Very soon, the pair had arrived outside a cave. In light of this place being not all that far from where Bai Yin was training until this point, she couldn't say she's noticed the cave at all during her time here. It's awfully strange for her to miss something so distinct in a place she resides. What is this place, Celestial Fox? How come I never noticed this place before? The fox whimpered some more, frowning on the face. You mean this cave only appeared because I broke through to the peak level of the Middle Divine? That drew a heavy nod from the fox, pursing her lips. Then something must be inside. It will take Deetsong some time to lure those old relics over to his side anyways. Let's go in and investigate. That said, Her legs had already stepped through the boundaries and into the cave. The cavernous tunnel appeared empty at first, echoing with her every step from the thick walls. However, it didn't take long for that to change because Bai Yan's ears soon picked up the sound of water splashing, similar to the noise of a waterfall. This discovery only made her more excited. Without hesitation, she fastened her feet and continued forward where she soon walked into a fairyland-like place. Revenge plan for this. Stunning, that's the only way Bai Yan could describe this magical place which she found herself in. The reasoning? It's because there are so much rare alchemic ingredients here. Not wanting to waste even a second, she hurriedly pulls out the alchemic book from her storage bag to begin investigating their names. I see. So that's why there are so much amazing herbs and alloys here. It's because of the thick spiritual particles in the air. For humanity and demons alike, they have several ways to bolster their own strength, the main type being ingestion or absorption through the skin. However, plants and inanimate objects are different. They must be bathed in an environment thick with energy, like this cave here, in order to produce the special properties needed, in order to classify them as such. The Enlightenment Dan pill. Damn it. If I want to refine such a pill, then according to this book, I will need to be at the demi-divine lord level. Gripping the pages in her hand with frustration, Bai Yan really wanted to smack herself for being so weak. The Enlightenment Dan pill was one of the long-lost recipes recorded in this medicinal manual, and its uses are to increase the speed of one's cultivation by 100 times without side effects. Issue was her own inability to match the required strength of the refiner. There must be something easier to make in this thing. Unwilling to give up, she swept through the pages in succession. Torrent Dan pill. A pill capable of increasing the user's cultivation speed by 10 times. Effective only to those below the demi-divine lord level. Bai Yan's heart shook over this revelation. If only this cave appeared earlier, then breaking through from the lower divine to the middle divine will only need 1/10 of the time I used. Such a pity. Skycore Dan pill? Can help a middle divine break into the high divine? A gasp escapes her throat. Is this what they call a timely rain in a parched wheat field? Just when I need it, the herb field comes. Within this treasure trove, a good chunk of the needed ingredients was already present. Therefore, she didn't waste any time and gathered everything and the equipments out. Demon City. The place hasn't seen a day of peace following Deet Song's departure. Though there hasn't been a massive invasion by the Celestial Palace yet. But there are always people who are fighting to win the title of royal consort. At this moment inside the palace, 2 maids are hanging their heads and sighing over the recent events. The king and queen have been away from for so long. I wonder when they are going to return. I know. I say, why would the king want another consort when the queen is so outstanding? Compared to the queen's beauty, these ladies who came into the palace is worlds apart. And what if those consorts manages to pull the queen down? What's going to happen to the prince then? I have never seen such an adorable and polite child in my life. It'd be such a pity for something to happen to our little prince. Just when the 2 maids were sighing again, a cold and harsh snappy voice cuts in and jerked them to attention. Why are you 2 chit-chatting around for when there's cleaning to be done? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.